I'm starting this because I keep telling myself I'm going to start things. And then life keeps happening in short bursts that don't leave room for anything that lasts. I'm not even sure what day it is without checking my phone. That's not some poetic drifter thing. It's just what happens when your weeks are measured in shifts, and every job you take feels temporary before you even sign the paperwork. You stop attaching meaning to dates. You stop hanging pictures. You stop saying I'm here like it's a statement you can trust. It's quiet where I am right now. Quiet in the way cheap places get when they're built to be filled with people and then aren't. Thin walls, a fridge that hums like it's working too hard, a window that doesn't seal properly so there's a constant, faint hiss of outside air. If I sit still long enough, I can hear my own breathing and it feels intrusive. Like I'm making noise in a place that belongs to someone else. I've done a lot of jobs. That's not an exaggeration. Warehouses, night security, cleaning crews, stocking shelves at places that smell like cardboard and stale lighting. Construction labor when someone needs an extra pair of hands and doesn't ask too many questions. I've worn so many high-vis vests, I stopped noticing the color. I've taken so many ID photos for so many temporary staff badges that I can look at my own face under fluorescent office light and feel nothing at all. Sometimes I tell myself I'm choosing this, that I'm keeping things light on purpose, that I'm avoiding commitment. It sounds better than admitting I just haven't found a place that feels like it's meant for me. The truth is simpler. I keep thinking the next job will be the one that makes everything click into place. The next contract, the next town, the next set of keys in my pocket. Like stability is something you can stumble into if you walk far enough. It never is. The only thing that stays consistent is writing. Not the romantic kind, not novels, just notebooks, pages, observations, lists, scenes I'll never use, snatches of dialogue I overhear in supermarkets. The way a stranger's hands look when they pay for coffee at 2 a.m. The way rain sounds on the plastic roof of a loading bay. I don't show it to anyone. I don't post it. It's not a career plan. It's just the only habit I've ever had that doesn't depend on someone else scheduling me. I keep a journal because it makes the days feel less slippery. Like if I pin them down with ink, they can't slide away unnoticed. Like I can prove to myself that I existed somewhere long enough to see things. That's what this is. Proof. I'm on my phone, thumb scrolling through a job site, the way people scroll through social media when they're avoiding their own thoughts. I do it without thinking now. The listings blur together. Immediate start, own transport essential, overtime available. Temporary position with potential to extend. The kind of language that pretends uncertainty is a perk. Then I see it. It's so plain, it almost looks fake. Seasonal fire lookout, remote posting contract, 6 months accommodation provided supplies delivered competitive pay, quiet work environment. No experience required, training provided. I scroll back up and read it again because my brain doesn't trust anything that clean. Jobs like that come with hidden costs. Or they come with a catch so obvious you feel stupid for not seeing it immediately. But the listing doesn't try too hard. It doesn't sell itself. There's no forced enthusiasm. It reads like someone wrote it because they had to, not because they wanted to attract attention. The location is listed as Mountain Sector, Northern Forest. Line, there's a contact email, with a government-looking domain. There's a date range. There's a line about radio check-ins required, and observation logs to be maintained daily. And then there's a sentence that makes me stop. Applicant must be comfortable with isolation and strict adherence to operational guidelines. Strict adherence, not follow instructions, not follow safety protocols, guidelines. Operational, the wording is almost clinical, like the job isn't about fires so much as it's about being a part of a system. I scroll further down and there's a PDF attachment. 1 page. Night observation rules addendum. I can't open it without applying. But just seeing the title makes something prick at the back of my neck. Not fear, not yet. More like curiosity that tastes faintly metallic. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed with my elbow on my knee, phone in hand, and I can already feel myself wanting this. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's the opposite of everything that's been chewing me up. 6 months. Accommodation provided. Supplies delivered. Quiet. I picture it instantly. A cabin, a view, no coworkers, no supervisors breathing down your neck. No shift manager texting you on your day off, asking if you can just cover a few hours. Just you. A job you can do by being awake and paying attention, and an excuse to exist somewhere long enough to write properly. I have this thought sharp and stupidly hopeful that maybe this is it. Not the final answer, but a chance to stop moving long enough to hear myself think. I apply before I can talk myself out of it. The form is simple. Name, contact, employment history. I paste in a resume that makes me look more stable than I am, because resumes are just lies formatted professionally. I tick boxes. I write a short paragraph about being reliable and self-motivated. I don't mention the drifting. I don't mention the way my life is basically a chain of, I can start immediately. There's a question at the end. Why are you interested in this role? I stare at it for a long time. I don't want to say because I'm tired. I don't want to say because I need somewhere to stand still. I don't want to say because I think if I'm alone long enough, I might finally write something that feels real. So I write. I work well independently. I'm comfortable with overnight responsibility, and I'm looking for a role where focus and routine matter. It feels true enough. I hit submit. The confirmation email arrives within minutes. Automated, polite, no emotion, then nothing. I go back to scrolling other jobs, like I didn't just throw a line out into something dark and deep. I tell myself I shouldn't get invested. I've learned not to. You get invested, and then the job disappears. Or they ghost you, or they tell you they went with someone else. Or you get there, and the reality is nothing like the listing. Still, I can't stop thinking about it. Over the next day, I start noticing little things that remind me of the kind of place that listing describes. A documentary playing in the background shows a tower rising over treetops, tiny against an endless sea of green. A picture online shows a man in a lookout cabin with binoculars and a coffee, sunlight on his face, looking peaceful in a way I haven't felt in years. I find myself looking at maps late at night, tracing the thick green patches where forests still exist in this country, where roads thin out and names on the map become sparse. I know the town down the road from the forest. I've passed through it once or twice on my way to other places. It's the kind of town that feels like it's always watching strangers. Not hostile, just wary. The kind of place where rumors live longer than facts. There were always stories about the mountain forest line. Everyone has them. Don't go up there. People get lost. Animals are different. Bear sightings. Wolves. Sometimes you hear it said with a laugh like it's superstition. Sometimes you hear it said quietly, like it's not a joke at all. I always assumed it was just what people say about any stretch of wilderness big enough to swallow a person. Fear turned into folklore. Simple as that. But now I find myself thinking about those stories differently. Not because I believe them, but because I realize how easy it would be for something real to hide inside them. How easy it would be for the truth to sound like a campfire tale. 2 days after I apply, I get another email. Not automated, a name at the bottom, a phone number, an instruction to call during office hours. I call immediately anyway, because I'm me, and I'm terrible at waiting. A woman answers on the second ring. Her voice is calm, practiced, like she's said these words 100 times this week. Fire Services Administration, Postings Department. I give my name. I tell her I applied. There's a pause, the soft sound of typing. Yes, she says. I see your application. She doesn't sound surprised. She doesn't sound interested. Just ticking a box. You're available to begin within the next week, she asks. Yes, you're comfortable with isolation. Yes, you understand this is a remote posting, with no visitors and limited contact outside scheduled check-ins. Yes, there's a slight pause again, like she's listening for something behind my answer. And you can adhere to operational guidelines without deviation, she says. It's not phrased as a question, but I answer anyway. Yes, good, she says. We can offer you the posting pending your acceptance of the contract terms. Accommodation is the tower cabin. Supplies delivered every 3 days. Pay is deposited weekly. You'll receive your start date, travel route, and the night observation rules addendum upon acceptance. Something tightens in my chest at the mention of the addendum again. I keep my voice steady. Okay, I say. Yes, I accept. There's no congratulations. No warmth. Just the sound of a process continuing. Start date is Monday, she says. Arrive at the ranger station by 1400 hours. Bring weather-appropriate clothing. Do not bring guests. Do not bring pets. A supervisor will escort you to your sector and provide your key. She pauses. You'll be given one laminated sheet, she adds. Keep it in the tower at all times. That's the first time her voice shifts, barely, just enough to make the words land heavier. A laminated sheet, I repeat. Yes, she says. The rules. You are to follow them as written. Okay, another pause. Do you have questions? I want to ask why. I want to ask what kind of rules a fire lookout needs at night. I want to ask why it's laminated like it's meant to survive weather, or blood, or something else people don't say out loud. But I don't. I've learned that asking too many questions at the start of a job makes people think you're going to be difficult. I want this. I don't want to give them a reason to change their mind. No, I say good, she replies. We'll email your contract details. Welcome aboard. The line goes dead. I sit there with my phone still at my ear for a moment, listening to nothing. Then I lower it slowly, like the movement has meaning. Monday. It's real now. That night, I buy a new notebook. Not because I need one, God knows. I have stacks of half-filled ones, but because this feels like the start of something that deserves a clean page. The kind of notebook that opens flat. Thick paper, a spine that won't crack after a week. Something meant to last 6 months, even if I don't. I lay it on the table in the motel room and stare at it for a long time. The cover is plain, black, no lines, no logo. It looks serious in a way that makes me self-conscious, like it expects something from me. I pick up the pen and hover over the first page. I don't know what to write at first, because part of me feels like putting words down will make it official. Like if I write it, I can't pretend it's not happening. So I start with the simplest truth. I take a job as a fire lookout. The sentence looks strange on the page, like something someone else would say, like something you'd read in an old book about men in towers and lonely forests. But it's mine now. I keep writing. I take it because I'm tired of moving. I take it because I'm good at being awake when other people sleep. I take it because I need to be somewhere long enough to stop feeling like a visitor in my own life. I take it because the listing promises quiet, and I've learned quiet can be a kind of medicine if it's the right kind. I pause, pen hovering. Then I write what I don't say out loud. I also take it because I want to write, not in fragments, not in stolen moments between shifts, not in motel rooms where you can hear strangers through the wall. I want long days and long nights where the only thing I have to do is watch and record, where observation isn't just something I do to survive, but something I'm paid for. I sit back and look at what I've written. My handwriting is steadier than I expected. Outside, a car passes on the road, headlights briefly sweeping across the curtains. For a moment, the room brightens, and then goes dim again, and the shift in light makes me think of the tower already, of a lamp that stays on beneath it, of rules printed on a laminated sheet. I haven't even seen the rules yet, and they're already taking up space in my head. I close the notebook gently, like I don't want to startle it. Monday comes fast. Over the next couple of days, I pack like someone trying not to look like they care. Clothes, boots, a jacket heavy enough for mountain cold, a thermos, a cheap pair of binoculars, even though I assume the tower will have its own. A torch, then another torch, because I've worked enough night jobs to know things fail at the worst times. Batteries, a lighter, a small first aid kit, a few books I tell myself I'll read, more pens than anyone needs. I keep picking things up, turning them over in my hands, imagining them in the tower, imagining how I'll feel up there, alone, riding by lamplight, while the forest spreads out below like a dark sea. The thought should scare me. Instead, it feels like relief. On Sunday night, I can't sleep. I lie on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the fridge hum, thinking about the climb, thinking about the tower sticking up above the tree line like a splinter in the sky. I picture the stairs at the bottom, running up the side of the structure to a door halfway up, like the tower is designed to keep you off the ground. I picture the observation lamp beneath it throwing a circle of light onto the forest floor. I picture the darkness beyond that circle, pressing in. I tell myself it's just bears, wolves, the kind of danger you can name. That's the thing about rumors. They give you something to hold. Monday morning, I put the notebook in my bag carefully, like it's more fragile than it is. I check that my phone is charged even though I've been told there's limited contact. I check my keys 3 times. I look around the motel room and feel nothing, which is how I know I've done this too many times. Before I leave, I open the notebook again and write one more line. If this works out, I stay. Then I close it, zip my bag, and step out into the morning air. The road ahead is clear. The town is down the way. The mountain forest line waits beyond that, rising up into a place people talk about in half-jokes and lowered voices. And for the first time in a long time, I'm heading somewhere that doesn't feel like a detour. It feels like a test. And I don't yet know what happens if I fail. I make it to the ranger station at 1347. It's the kind of place that looks like it was designed to be overlooked. Low building, weathered timber, a faded sign with peeling paint, 2 flagpoles out front, one of them empty. Gravel car park with more space than cars. The whole thing sits at the edge of the last stretch of civilization, like it's been pushed there and forgotten. The air smells different up here already. Cleaner, but not fresher. There's a resinous bite to it, pine and cold soil, and something faintly metallic that sits in the back of my throat when I breathe too deep. The mountain line rises behind the station, the forest stacked in layers that get darker as the elevation climbs. It doesn't look welcoming, it looks indifferent. I turn the engine off and sit for a second with my hands on the steering wheel, letting the quiet settle. No traffic, no voices. Just wind and the thin, distant sound of something tapping against metal. Probably a loose sign. This should feel like freedom. Instead, it feels like stepping into a building after hours, when you know you shouldn't be there even if you have the key. Inside the station, it's warmer than I expect. Not cozy, just insulated. Fluorescent lights buzz softly overhead. The receptionist's desk is empty, but there's a bell with a sign that says, "Please ring." I ring it once, and the sound is too sharp in the quiet room. A man appears from a doorway on the left. He's in his 40s maybe, heavy coat, work boots. Beard that looks like it's been trimmed with the same practicality as everything else in this place. He doesn't smile, but his expression isn't hostile either. It's more like he's already decided what kind of person I am, and he's waiting to see if I match it. "You, the lookout?" he asks. I nod. "Yeah, that's me." He glances at a clipboard in his hand. "Tower 7. He says it like it's a postcode, like it's not a place you live in. "That's right," I say, though I've never seen it. He steps closer and holds out his hand. "Name's Morgan. I'll get you up there." His handshake is brief and firm, like he's sealing a contract without ceremony. He doesn't offer coffee. He doesn't ask about the drive. He just turns and motions for me to follow. There's a small office down the corridor where he sits me at a desk and slides papers across. The contract is exactly what the email said. Dates, pay, check-in times, supply schedule, accommodation, assigned tower cabin. He points with the end of his pen. Sign there, initial there. That one too. I do it without reading too closely. Not because I don't care, but because I've learned the hard way that contracts are written to protect systems, not people. If there's something hidden in here, I'm not catching it in this light. When I'm done, he takes the pages and flips them into a folder. Then he opens a drawer and pulls out a laminated sheet. It's plain, white background, black text, no logo, no dramatic heading, just a title in small letters. Night observation rules, Tower 7. He places it on the desk between us, like it has weight. "Keep that in the tower," he says. "Don't lose it." I stare at it. The laminate catches the overhead light, throwing a thin glare across the words. "Is this?" I start, then stop, because I don't know how to phrase the question without sounding stupid. Morgan doesn't help me. "You read it now," he says. "You follow it later." I slide it closer and start reading. Rule 1. Do not leave the tower after dark for any reason. Rule 2. Keep the observation lamp on at night, at all times. The lamp beneath the tower, illuminating the stairs and ground, must remain on. Rule 3. If you observe movement at ground level within your sector after dark, report it immediately. Dispatch response. Copy. Unit responding. Maintain position and redirect observation to the east side of the tower for the next hour. Rule 4. If you observe movement that stops when you stop watching it, report it as a delayed sighting. Dispatch response. Received. Secondary unit responding. Discontinue current sweep and monitor northern boundary only. Rule 5. If you observe movement ascending toward the upper tree line, report direction and elevation only. Dispatch response. Logged. Unit responding. End vertical tracking and conduct low-angle sweep for the next 40 minutes. Rule 6. If you observe movement crossing out of your sector toward higher elevation, report it as a boundary transfer. Dispatch response. Confirmed. Unit dispatched. Cease observation and remain focused on assigned sector. Rule 7. If you observe stationary figures or shapes within your sector that do not progress, report duration only. Dispatch response. Understood. Unit responding. Take a break and resume observation on the west side at the next interval. Rule 8. If you observe reflections, lights, or silhouettes near the tower, stairs, or base, report proximity immediately. Dispatch response. Copy. Ground unit responding. Keep the observation lamp on and monitor upper canopy only. Rule 9. If dispatch contacts you regarding a sighting you have not yet reported, acknowledge it as observed. Dispatch response. Acknowledged. Unit already responding. Adjust observation schedule as directed. Rule 10. If you are instructed to stop observing a specific area, do not resume observation of that area during the same shift. Dispatch response. Confirmed. Maintain alternate sweep until relieved. I read it twice, slowly, because my brain keeps trying to map it onto something I understand. Fire, smoke, weather, lightning strikes. But the rules aren't about fire. Not really. They're about movement. They're about where you look, where you don't, and what to do if something behaves wrong in the simplest possible way. Stopping when you stop watching it. I look up at Morgan. What's this got to do with fires? He doesn't change expression. It's night rules. That doesn't answer. It doesn't have to, he says, and his tone shuts the conversation down so cleanly it feels rehearsed. You're here to watch your sector and log what you're told to log. Dispatch handles the rest. Dispatch sends a team, I ask, tapping the laminated page with my finger. The laminate is cold. Morgan nods once. Units respond. Fire units. He looks at me for a fraction longer than before. Not a glare, not a warning. Just a pause that makes me suddenly aware of how loud my questions are in this building. Unix, he repeats. I swallow and look back at the sheet. Bears, I think. Wolves. Maybe they've had enough incidents up there that they've created a weird protocol to keep people from going outside at night. Maybe units are wildlife control. Maybe this is all just a fancy way of saying, don't be a hero, don't get yourself killed. That explanation fits comfortably enough for my brain to accept it. It also doesn't explain why the sheet is laminated. Morgan stands. You ready? I tuck the sheet carefully into my folder like it's important paperwork, and follow him outside. His truck is an old workhorse, scratched and muddy, the kind of vehicle that never truly gets clean. He loads my bag into the back without comment, and I climb into the passenger seat. We drive. The road out of town is narrow and climbs fast. The last houses thin out quickly. The final shop disappears behind us. The signal on my phone drops to 1 bar, and then vanishes entirely. It's just us, the truck engine, and the forest. The trees press in on both sides, trunks close to the roadside, like the road was cut through reluctantly. The canopy above thickens as we climb, shutting out more sky. Light turns greener and dimmer, filtered through needles. Morgan drives like he's done this 1,000 times. One hand on the wheel, eyes forward, no wasted movement. After 10 minutes, he speaks without looking at me. Don't go wandering, he says. I glance over. I wasn't planning to. He nods slightly. People think they'll explore. They think they'll get bored. They think the tower is the only weird thing up there. It isn't. That's the closest he gets to acknowledging the rules. We drive past a weathered sign half hidden by branches. Restricted access, permit holders only. Someone has scratched at the metal with something sharp. The letters are gouged in places like claws. Bears, I ask, trying to keep it light. Morgan doesn't smile. Bears, wolves, people. I repeat. He shrugs, like it's not worth clarifying. The road becomes rougher. Gravel replaces tarmac. The truck bumps and rattles. My bag thumps softly in the back with each pothole. Then, through the trees, I see it. At first, it's just a vertical line that doesn't belong. A pale structure cutting through green. Then the forest opens slightly, and the tower is there, rising above the canopy like an old finger pointing at the sky. It's taller than I imagined. Older, too. The wood is darkened by weather, streaked with gray, the kind of patina you get when something has stood through too many winters. It looks narrow from a distance, almost delicate, but the closer we get, the more it feels stubborn, like it has survived by refusing to move. A staircase runs up the side, bolted and braced, starting at the base and climbing to a door halfway up. The steps are metal, but the rails are old wood, reinforced with strips of steel. I can see where the railing bows slightly in places, as if something heavy has leaned on it over the years. At the bottom, beneath the first steps, there's a lamp mounted on a short post. It isn't on in daylight, but it's there, waiting. The tower's cabin sits at the top, glass windows on all sides, like an eye. Morgan parks near the base, engine rumbling down into silence. The forest closes around us immediately, swallowing the sound. Up close, I can hear the tower. Not words, not voices, just a constant faint groan in the wood, like it's adjusting under its own weight. The wind pushes through the trees, and the whole structure answers with a slow creak, as if it's breathing. Morgan gets out, stretches once, and grabs my bag. "This is your sector," he says, pointing vaguely into the trees. "Marked trails. Don't go beyond them." I can't see any markings from here. Just forest. Just green and shadow, and the mountain rising behind it in a long slope. "The tower's stocked," he continues. "Supply drop every 3 days. You'll hear it before you see it. If you miss one, don't panic. Sometimes weather delays it." He hands me a key attached to a thick tag marked T7. "Radio check-ins are scheduled," he adds. "You miss one, dispatch will contact you." You respond. I hesitate. "Do the other towers?" Morgan cuts me off before I finish. "No, just that. No radio with other lookouts. You're responsible for your sector only. Don't go trying to play messenger." I nod. "Okay." He looks up at the tower. "You go up now. I'll wait till you're inside." "Why?" Morgan's eyes flick briefly to the forest and back. "Because that's protocol. I don't like that. But I'm not going to argue." I sling my bag over my shoulder and step toward the stairs. The first step makes a metallic clank. The sound travels upward along the staircase and into the tower, echoing faintly. As I climb, the forest drops away beneath me. The air changes, cooler, cleaner, windier, the higher I go. The more I can see over the tops of the trees, endless green stretching out, broken only by ridges and the mountain line rising in the distance. Halfway up, the door waits. It's reinforced metal, painted dull brown, scratched and dented in places like someone has tried to drag something across it. There's a small peephole, the kind of detail that belongs on a ship, not a lookout tower. I unlock it and push. The door opens with a heavy, reluctant groan. Inside, it smells like old wood, dust, and something faintly chemical cleaning solution, maybe. The interior is tighter than I expected. A small living space, a narrow bed with a thin mattress, a table bolted to the floor, a chair, shelves lined with tins and packets, a sink with a hand pump, a small stove. Everything practical, everything built to last. A ladder leads up into the observation cabin at the top. I drop my bag and just stand for a moment, listening. The tower creaks softly around me. The wind presses at the walls. Somewhere outside, a bird calls once and then goes silent. Morgan's voice carries up from below. "You good?" I move to the small window and look down. He's standing at the base of the stairs, hands in his jacket pockets, looking up. "Yeah," I call back. "I'm in." He nods once. "All right." He doesn't wave. He just turns, walks back to the truck, and drives away. The sound of the engine fades fast. Within a minute, it's like he was never here. I'm alone. That settles on me slowly, like a blanket you don't realize is heavy until you try to move. I unpack with deliberate calm, because that's what you do when you're trying not to think too hard. Clothes folded into the small chest. Books on the shelf. Notebook placed carefully on the table, pen beside it. Then I climb the ladder into the observation cabin. Up here, the world opens. Windows on every side. A circular desk with maps and a radio unit bolted down. A pair of binoculars on a strap, a logbook, a mounted compass. A small lamp with a flexible neck probably. The observation lamp they meant for inside, except Rule 2 specified the lamp beneath the tower. That thought makes me glance down through the glass floor panel near the ladder hatch. There's a panel that looks straight down along the side of the tower, toward the base. I can see the stairway, the ground, the lamppost beneath, currently off. I can see how exposed the base is from up here. How vulnerable. I shake the thought off. Bears, I remind myself. Wolves, people I spend the rest of the afternoon learning the routine. The sector map shows my assigned area in a rough wedge, boundaries marked by ridgelines and old trails. I can see the mountain rising toward the north, the forest thickening as it climbs. Somewhere out there, other towers exist. I can't see them. That feels intentional. The radio check-in schedule is pinned to the wall. Times, codes. A simple reminder, do not deviate. Everything about this job is built around staying in place and paying attention. As the day fades, the forest changes color. Green deepens into shadow. The canopy becomes a black mass. The wind cools and sharpens. At 19 o'clock, I eat a tin of stew heated on the stove, the smell filling the small space. It's not good, but it's warm. I sit at the table and open my notebook. This is where I expected to feel inspired. Instead, I feel watched. Not by eyes. By the tower itself. By the idea of being recorded in a system I don't understand. Still, I write. I write about the job listing and the way it seemed to clean. I write about Morgan's voice and the way he said units like it was normal. I write about the laminated rules and how they read like wildlife protocol written by someone who has never seen a bear. I write about the town rumors, how even down below people talk about this mountain like it bites. Then I stop and stare at Rule 2 again, because it's the one that doesn't fit. Keep the observation lamp on, at night, at all times. The lamp beneath the tower, illuminating the stairs and ground, must remain on. That's not for me. Not really. It's for whatever is down there. At 21:30, I do my first scheduled radio check-in. Tower 7 online, I say, voice steady. Beginning night observation. The radio crackles softly, then a calm voice answers. Copy, Tower 7, maintain schedule. Report, per addendum, no warmth, no chatter, just procedure. At 22 o'clock, the forest is fully dark. From up here, it's a single, vast shape. A black ocean of treetops with no visible floor. The sky above is clear enough that stars begin to prick through. Faint at first, then brighter as my eyes adjust. The mountain line looms as a darker cut against the night sky. I sit in the observation cabin with the windows closed, listening to the tower creak as the temperature drops. The wind presses in gentle pulses, making the structure complain softly. At 22:15, I climb down to the living space and stand by the door. It's strange, preparing to obey a rule that feels ceremonial. I open the door a crack and look down the staircase. The steps vanish into darkness. The base of the tower is a deeper black. I reach for the switch mounted near the door labeled OBS lamp and flip it. The lamp beneath the tower snaps on. A cone of white light spills across the ground and up the lower steps. It illuminates the base in harsh clarity, dirt, scattered pine needles, the first few bolts anchoring the staircase into the tower's frame. Beyond the light is darkness so thick, it looks solid. The circle of illumination feels like an island. I shut the door, lock it, and lean my forehead against the cool metal for a second. It's only a lamp. And yet my pulse has picked up, like I just did something important. I go back up to the observation cabin and look down through the floor panel. The lamp glows steadily. The stairs are lit. The ground at the base is visible. Nothing is there. I tell myself this is normal. Wildlife deterrent. Safety. Visibility. A way to discourage curious animals from messing with the stairs. I tell myself that, and keep watching, because what else is there to do? Around midnight, I write one final entry for the day. I'm in the tower. The lamp is on beneath me. The forest is black beyond its reach. Everything is quiet. The rules are strange. but the job is still just a job. If there's danger here, it's the kind you can name. Bears, wolves, people. Tomorrow I'll settle in. Tomorrow I'll start writing properly. I close the notebook. Up above, the tower creaks softly in the wind. Down below, the lamp keeps shining, and I try not to think about how wide the darkness is beyond that circle of light. I wake up before the alarm. That surprises me, because I didn't sleep particularly well. The mattress is thin, and the tower never fully stops moving. It doesn't sway exactly, but there's a constant, subtle shifting as the wood contracts and relaxes with temperature changes, as the wind leans against it from different angles. It's the kind of motion you don't notice at first, and then can't unnotice once your body clocks it. Still, when I open my eyes, the light coming through the small window tells me it's morning, pale, cool. The kind of light that hasn't decided what it's going to do yet. For a few seconds I forget where I am. The ceiling above me is unfamiliar. The air smells different. Cleaner than the motel. Sharper than any place I've lived recently. Then memory settles in, and I feel the quiet again. Heavy and absolute. The tower. Day 3. I lie still and listen. Wind through the trees. A distant bird call. The soft creak of the structure adjusting itself. No voices. No engines. No human-made sounds at all. That's when it hits me. Properly. For the first time. There is no background noise here. No distant traffic. No sirens. No hum of power lines. The forest doesn't buzz the way cities do. It breathes, but it doesn't chatter. I sit up slowly, careful not to rush my body into the day. One of the things I've learned drifting from job to job is that mornings set the tone. If you stumble out of bed already irritated, the rest of the day will follow. I swing my legs over the side of the bed and stand. The floor is cold under my feet. I pull on a sweater, then pause. Because the silence is so complete, it feels like a sound in itself. I climb the ladder up into the observation cabin and look out across the forest. Daylight transforms everything. What was an endless black mass last night is now layered green and gold. The trees stretch out in every direction, packed tightly together, their tops brushing against one another like they're sharing secrets. The mountain rises beyond them, its slope dotted with darker clusters where the forest thickens. The lamp beneath the tower is off now. In daylight, it looks harmless. Just a metal fixture bolted into place. Ordinary. I make coffee on the small stove, the smell grounding me, then eat a breakfast that feels more like fuel than food. Tinned fruit, crackers, a protein bar. Practical enough. At 8 o'clock, I do my first daylight radio check-in. Tower 7, online, I say. Beginning morning observation. There's a brief crackle, then the same calm voice as last night. Copy, Tower 7. Maintain schedule. That's it. I start the routine. Observation sweeps are simple, in theory. You divide the sector into segments and scan them systematically, left to right, near to far, ground to canopy, canopy to ridgeline. You log anything that looks like smoke, anything that moves unnaturally, anything that breaks the pattern you start to recognize once you've stared at trees long enough. I thought it would be boring. It isn't. It's meditative in a way I didn't expect. The act of watching, really watching, slows everything down. My thoughts stop jumping ahead. My breathing evens out. I become aware of small details. The way sunlight catches on certain leaves, making them flash briefly like signals. The way shadows shift as clouds pass overhead. The subtle difference between wind-driven movement and something heavier pushing through branches. Everything I see makes sense. That's important. I log birds. I log deer moving through the lower part of the sector, their bodies barely visible through the undergrowth, flashes of brown and white. I log nothing else. By midday, I've written 3 pages in the official logbook and 2 in my own journal. The difference between them is stark. The logbook is dry, times, coordinates, observations, stripped of anything human. My journal is looser. I write about the way the tower smells like old wood and metal. About the way my hands feel steadier up here than they ever did working at checkout or stacking boxes. About how the forest doesn't feel empty so much as full of things that aren't mine. I write about drifting. I don't usually. It's not a subject I like poking at too much, because it tends to unravel quickly. But up here, with no one to overhear and no reason to pretend, the words come easier. I write about the first time I realized I didn't belong where I was. A warehouse job where I watched the same conveyor belt for 8 hours a night and felt like I was dissolving into the noise. A security post where I sat alone in a booth watching cameras that never showed anything happening until I realized that nothing was eating me alive. I write about how every town started to feel interchangeable. Same streets, same shops, same conversations, same promises that things would get better if I stuck around just a little longer. I didn't leave because I wanted adventure. I left because staying felt like slowly sinking into something that didn't notice. Up here, the loneliness feels different. Chosen, contained, framed by purpose. In the afternoon, clouds roll in, thick and low, draping the forest in shadow. The temperature drops. The tower creaks more as the wind picks up, a low, constant sound like an old ship at sea. I climb down to the living space and check supplies. Everything is in order. The next delivery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. The crate on the shelf is labeled with dates and contents. Someone, somewhere, has thought this through. That thought sticks with me. Someone designed this system. The towers, the sectors, the schedules, the rules. It didn't happen by accident. It wasn't slapped together. I tell myself it's just fire management. That there are layers of bureaucracy behind this job that I'll never see. Committees, risk assessments, years of incident reports that turned into laminated sheets. I tell myself that, and it mostly works. By late afternoon, the clouds thin and light returns, muted but present. The forest smells different when it's been under shadow for a while. Damp, earthy, alive. I do another radio check-in. Tower 7, continuing observation. Copy. I spend the rest of the daylight hours writing. Not about the job, not about the forest, just scenes. Snippets. A man sitting in a tower writing, because it's the only thing that makes the hours feel solid. As the sun sinks toward the horizon, the light changes again. The greens deepen. Shadows stretch. The forest starts to lose detail, blending into itself. At 18:30, I prepare for night. This time, I don't treat it like a novelty. I eat early. I fill my thermos. I check the radio battery. I make sure the logbook and my journal are within reach. I go down to the door and stand there for a moment before turning on the observation lamp. It feels different now that I know what it does. The switch clicks. The lamp comes on beneath the tower, casting its familiar circle of light. It looks smaller in daylight than it did last night, but the effect is the same, a hard boundary between what is visible and what isn't. I watch it from above for a long time. Nothing crosses into it. Night settles fully by 20 o'clock. The forest goes quiet in a way that feels deliberate, like everything that needs to move has already moved somewhere else. The wind dies down, the tower's creaking lessens. Even the birds seem to have decided to leave me alone. I do my night check-in. Tower 7, beginning night observation. Copy. Tower 7. Maintain schedule. Report per addendum. I almost laugh at how normal it sounds. The hours pass slowly. I scan my sector again and again, left to right, ground to canopy, canopy to ridgeline. The binoculars feel heavier after a while, the straps biting into my neck. I take breaks when instructed by the schedule, sitting back in the chair, stretching my fingers, sipping coffee. Nothing happens. No movement, no strange lights, no shapes that don't belong. At 22:15, I write in my journal again. Second night. Still quiet. The rules feel unnecessary, but I'm following them anyway. The lamp is on. The stairs are lit. The forest is dark beyond that. I can hear something moving far off, sometimes branches shifting, animals passing, but nothing near the base. If this is meant to scare people off, it's doing a poor job. Mostly it's just peaceful. I stop writing and listen. There it is again, a sound, far away. Not close enough to trigger any rule, just the forest being the forest. I'm surprised to find I'm enjoying this. I sleep in short bursts, setting alarms to wake myself for sweeps. Each time I wake, the tower feels more familiar. Less like a strange place, and more like a space my body understands. Morning comes again, slow and pale. Day 4. The supply drop arrives at 9:30, announced by the distant thump of helicopter blades long before I see it. The sound grows steadily louder, cutting cleanly through the forest's quiet. I step out onto the small platform near the observation cabin and watch as the helicopter appears above the tree line, hovering with practiced precision. A crate descends on a cable, swinging slightly before settling into the clearing near the base of the tower. The helicopter doesn't land, it doesn't circle. Once the crate is down, the cable retracts and the aircraft banks away, disappearing as quickly as it came, efficient, impersonal. I climb down after it's gone, retrieve the crate, and haul it up the stairs. It's heavier than I expect, packed with a mix of tinned goods, fresh produce sealed in insulated bags, bottled water, batteries, and a note clipped to the top. Tower 7 supplies 4 days 4 to 6, maintain schedule. No signature. I unpack methodically, stowing everything where it belongs. This rhythm receives store feels grounding. The rest of the day passes, much like the last. Observation, writing, eating, watching the light shift. If someone asked me now how the job was going, I'd tell them it was easy, that it was quiet, that it was almost boring. I would not mention the rules. I would not mention the way the forest seems to change character after dark, like it's holding something back. I would not mention how the lamp beneath the tower feels less like a convenience and more like a promise. That night, as I'm finishing a sweep around 2340, I notice something that makes me pause. Not movement, absence. A patch of forest near the lower part of my sector looks flatter than it did before. Not cleared, not disturbed. Just subtly different, like the shadows aren't sitting right. I stare at it for a long time. Nothing moves, no branches sway, no animals pass through. Eventually, I convince myself it's just the light, just fatigue, just my eyes playing tricks on me after hours of watching trees. I don't report it. There's no rule for that. I write it down in my journal instead, as a note to myself. Probably nothing. Need to sleep more. I close the notebook and lean back in the chair, letting my eyes rest. The tower creaks softly above me. The lamp shines steadily below. And somewhere out there, beyond the edge of my sector, the forest continues doing whatever it's been doing for longer than anyone remembers. Tomorrow will be the same, I tell myself. Tomorrow, I'll keep watching. Tomorrow, if something happens, I'll know what to do. For now, nothing has crossed the line. And I don't yet understand how important that is. I wake to the sound of the wind pushing harder against the tower than it has so far. It isn't violent, not yet, just insistent. The kind of steady pressure that makes you aware of how tall something is, how much surface it presents to the world around it. The tower answers with a slow, drawn-out creak, wood flexing against metal. Joints shifting as if they're stretching after a long sleep. For a moment, I don't move. I lie there and let the sound orient me. Morning again. Another day that looks, on paper, exactly like the last two, but there's a thin edge to the air that wasn't there before. I can feel it in my chest when I breathe. The faintest sense that something has changed its posture, even if I can't yet name what. I check the time. 6:18. Dawn is just beginning to lighten the forest. The sky beyond the small window has gone from black to deep blue, the stars thinning out like they've been erased one by one. I get up and climb the ladder to the observation cabin, moving carefully, letting my hands find the rungs by habit now. From up here, the forest looks subdued, colors muted, shapes softened by the low light. The mountain line sits like a darker shadow against the horizon. I start the morning sweep. Everything looks normal. I log birds again, a small group moving through the canopy, quick flashes of movement that feel almost frantic in the early light. I log a deer near the lower boundary of the sector, its head lifting briefly before it melts back into the trees. The area I noticed last night, the patch that looked wrong, looks fine now. Flat shadows resolved into ordinary undergrowth. Nothing out of place. I tell myself that's proof. I imagined it. At 8 o'clock I do the radio check-in. Tower 7 online. Beginning morning observation. Copy, Tower 7. Maintain schedule. Same voice, same tone, same lack of anything human behind it. I eat breakfast, make coffee, write for a while. I write about how easy it is to slip into routine here. How the hours blur together without becoming heavy. How the tower feels less like a workplace and more like a neutral space, something between a job and a shelter. I write about the way the rules are starting to fade into the background. Still strange, but familiar enough that they no longer stand out. That's probably a mistake. By late morning, the wind picks up again. Not gusts, just a constant flow that pushes at the treetops and makes them ripple like water. The sound carries up into the tower, filling the cabin with a low, rushing noise. It's comforting in a way. White noise, cover for thought. I'm in the middle of a sweep when I see it. At first it barely registers. Just movement at the edge of my vision, low and subtle, the kind of thing you'd normally dismiss without a second thought. A shift in the undergrowth near the lower part of my sector, close enough to the boundary that I can see it clearly through the binoculars. I lower them, blink, then raise them again. The movement happens again. Something passes between two trees, partially obscured, dark, low to the ground. Too slow for a bird. Too controlled for wind. My first thought is deer. My second thought is bear. I check the time automatically. 11:42. Daylight. Clear visibility. There's no immediate reason to worry. Animals move through this forest all the time. That's what forests are for. Still, I adjust my focus and track the movement carefully. It's not moving like an animal I recognize. There's no bounding motion. No head lifting to test the air. No hesitation. It moves with a steady, deliberate pace, parallel to the tree line, staying just far enough back that its full shape never quite resolves. That makes my stomach tighten. I watch for another minute, then another. Rule 3 surfaces in my mind, uninvited. If you observe movement at ground level within your sector after dark, report it immediately. After dark, it's still day. I almost dismiss it entirely. Then the movement changes direction. It turns cleanly, decisively, and starts angling uphill, not toward the tower, toward the mountain. That's when my mouth goes dry. Rule 5. If you observe movement ascending toward the upper tree line, report direction and elevation only. There's no mention of time. I hesitate. This feels ridiculous. Reporting something I can't even properly see. Calling dispatch to tell them something moved in a forest full of living things. But the rules didn't ask me to decide what it is. They asked me to report. I reach for the radio. Tower 7, I say, keeping my voice even. I've got movement ascending toward the upper tree line. Lower northwest sector. Elevation increasing. There's a pause. Not long, just long enough for the forest noise to seem louder by comparison. Then the reply comes. Copy, Tower 7. Unit responding. End vertical tracking, and conduct low-angle sweep for the next 40 minutes. That's it. No follow-up questions. No request for clarification. No hesitation. Unit responding. My pulse picks up, sharp and fast. I force myself to do exactly what I've been told. I stop tracking the movement uphill. I lower the binoculars and shift my focus back to the lower part of the sector, scanning horizontally instead of vertically. The rules don't say why, they just say what. For the next 40 minutes, nothing else happens. The forest resumes its normal rhythms. Birds move. Leaves shift. Shadows drift. Whatever I saw is gone, swallowed by the incline in the trees. At 12:30, I log the report in the official book, using the same neutral language as always. Movement, direction, elevation. I don't write how it felt. I don't write how quickly dispatch responded. I don't write the way the phrase unit responding echoes in my head like it's heavier than it should be. I do write about it in my journal though. First report, daylight, movement ascending. Dispatch responded immediately. No explanation. I did what the rules said. Everything else feels normal now, which is somehow worse. The rest of the afternoon passes without incident, but I can't shake the sense that something has been set in motion, like a piece has slid across a board somewhere out of sight. The wind dies down toward evening, leaving the forest oddly still, too still. The kind of stillness that makes you notice every small sound, because there are so few of them. I eat early and prepare for night again, more carefully than before. I check the radio twice. I make sure the lamp switch is functioning. I look at the laminated rules longer than I have any reason to. At 19:55, I turn on the observation lamp. The light spills out beneath the tower, carving the base into sharp relief. Dirt, pine needles, the bottom of the stairs. The first few steps, gleaming faintly, where the metal catches the glow, nothing else. At 20 o'clock, I begin night observation. The darkness beyond the lamp feels thicker tonight, more defined, like it's pressing up against the edge of the light, rather than retreating from it. I tell myself that's imagination. At 21:10, I hear something. Not from the forest. From the stairs. It's faint. Barely more than a suggestion of sound. A soft metallic tick, like something brushing against a bolt. I freeze, every muscle locking at once. I listen. Nothing. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, and shake my head at myself. Old structure. Temperature changes. Metal expands and contracts. I know this. 5 minutes later, it happens again. This time, it's clearer. A scrape, low controlled, right at the edge of the lamp's reach. I move to the glass floor panel and look straight down. The stairs are empty. The light shows every step, clearly. No shadow breaks the circle. No shape moves through it. The forest beyond remains black and unreadable. I wait. Another scrape, closer this time. The sound of something testing the staircase without stepping fully into the light. My heart is pounding now, hard enough that I can feel it in my throat. Rule 8. If you observe reflections, lights, or silhouettes near the tower stairs or base, report proximity immediately. I grab the radio. Tower 7, I say, voice tight, despite my efforts. Possible proximity near the base of the stairs. Lower structure. Nothing visible in the lamp yet. There's no delay this time. Copy, Tower 7. Ground unit responding. Keep the observation lamp on, and monitor upper canopy only. Ground unit. My hands shake as I set the radio down. I force myself to follow the instruction. I lift my gaze away from the stairs and focus upward, scanning the canopy above the lamp's reach. The trees sway slightly, their branches overlapping and separating in slow motion. The sounds stop completely. No scraping, no brushing, no wind. The silence is abrupt enough to hurt. I keep watching the canopy because I'm told to. I count my breaths. I try to anchor myself in procedure. Minutes pass. Nothing happens. At 21:30, I hear it again. This time, it's unmistakable. A hand. I don't know how I know that, but I do. The sound of fingers curling around metal. The slow creak of the railing as weight is applied. I break the rule. I look down. At the very edge of the lamp's light, just beyond where the brightness fades into shadow, something is gripping the bottom of the staircase. It's not fully in the light. Just enough of it to be wrong. A shape that suggests fingers, but doesn't quite match the proportions I expect. Too long. Too many joints. The skinnif. That's what it is, looks dull and colorless, like it's never seen sunlight. It doesn't move. It just holds on. I feel cold wash through me, sharp and sudden. I don't scream. I don't speak. I don't move. I reach for the radio again with a hand that barely feels like it belongs to me. Tower 7, I whisper, then clear my throat and try again, louder. Tower 7, I have contact at the base of the stairs. Partial visibility. It's holding the railing. The reply comes immediately. Copy, Tower 7. Unit responding. Remain inside. Do not engage. Do not observe the lower structure. Do not observe. I tear my eyes away from the floor panel like it burns. The sound of metal under pressure continues. Slow, patient. Something begins to climb. Not fast, not clumsily, deliberately. Each movement is careful, measured, like it's learning the structure as it goes. Testing which steps creak, which rails bend, which bolts protest. The tower answers with low, painful sounds. Wood groaning, metal flexing. I back away from the floor panel, heart hammering so hard it feels like it's shaking the air. The sound reaches the door. There's a pause, then a thud. Not a slam, a press. Something leaning its weight against the door from the outside. The reinforced metal bows inward slightly, enough that I can see the surface ripple under the force. I press myself against the opposite wall, every instinct screaming at me to get away from the door, even though there's nowhere to go. Tower 7, I say into the radio, voice breaking despite everything. It's at the door. Copy, dispatchreplies.com, as ever. Unit is en route. Maintain position. Maintain position. The pressure on the door increases. The hinges creak. The frame groans. The tower shudders as the thing outside shifts its weight. I don't know how long it lasts. Seconds feel like minutes. Minutes feel like hours. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the pressure eases. The sounds retreat, slowly down the stairs, back toward the ground. I don't move. I don't breathe. The forest noise returns in a rush-wind distant calls, the world remembering itself. After a long time, the radio crackles. Tower 7, dispatch says. Ground unit has resolved the situation. Resume standard observation. Resolved. I sink down onto the floor, legs giving out beneath me. My entire body is shaking now, uncontrollably. I press my hands against the floor to steady myself, feeling the vibration of the tower under my palms. I don't know what I saw. I don't know what climbed the stairs. I don't know what the unit did, but I know this. The rules aren't for bears. They're not for wolves. And they're not for people. I write everything down immediately, hands clumsy, words uneven. First contact, night, near the stairs. It climbed. Dispatch sent a unit. Whatever it was left. If you're reading this later, understand something. When they say unit responding, they don't mean help for you. They mean maintenance. The lamp is still on. The stairs are still standing. The tower is quiet again. And somewhere out there, uphill in the dark, something has learned how close it can get. I don't sleep after that. I try. I lie on the narrow bed with the lights off, boots still on, jacket folded but not put away, listening to every sound the tower makes as if it might change, meaning halfway through the night. Every creak feels deliberate now. Every shift in the wood sounds like a decision being made without me. The forest doesn't settle back into the quiet it had before. It never gets loud. That would be easier. Instead, it stays in a state of low activity, branches brushing, leaves whispering, the occasional dull crack of something heavy, moving far away uphill. Not close enough to trigger anything, just close enough to keep my nerves taut. I replay the sounds of the stairs in my head over and over again, the way it climbed, not rushed, not animal, no scrabbling, no panic, just a steady understanding of how weight and leverage work, like it had done it before, like it knew the staircase better than I did. At some point near dawn, exhaustion wins by default. I slip into shallow sleep, the kind where dreams don't bother forming because your body doesn't trust itself to let go. I wake to light and the sound of wind again. Morning. The tower looks unchanged. That's the first thing I check. I climb into the observation cabin and look down through the floor panel. The stairs are intact. No bent rails. No missing bolts. No gouges in the wood. The lamp beneath the tower is off. Just a fixture again. If not for the ache in my muscles and the rawness in my throat, I might convince myself none of it happened. I don't. At 7:30, I do the morning radio check-in. Tower 7 online, I say. My voice sounds rough, scraped thin by the night. Beginning morning observation. There's a pause, longer than usual. Then, copy. Tower 7, maintain schedule. Same voice, same tone, but the delay sits with me. I start the sweep. The forest looks different after something like that. It's hard to explain unless you've experienced it. The shapes are the same. The colors are the same. But my brain refuses to treat them as background now. Every shadow feels like it could peel itself away and become something else. I keep my binoculars trained on the lower sector longer than usual, scanning the undergrowth where the thing first appeared. Nothing moves. No disturbed earth. No broken branches. It didn't leave tracks. That bothers me more than if it had. By mid-morning, I've logged nothing out of the ordinary. Birds, wind patterns, normal forest behavior. The official logbook remains boring, which feels like a lie. I write in my journal instead. Night 4. First physical contact. It climbed the stairs. Dispatch said unit, responding, and then said it was resolved. I don't know what that means. I don't know what resolved looks like. There are no marks on the structure. Either it was never really here, or whatever they sent knows how to clean up after itself. I pause, pen hovering. I don't know which option is worse. The day stretches out in uneasy calm. I notice small things now. How often the forest goes still for no apparent reason. How birds avoid certain patches of canopy. How the wind changes direction abruptly near the mountain line, as if something large disrupts it. Around 14 o'clock, I spot movement again. This time, It's clear. A shape moving between trees in the mid-distance of my sector, higher up than yesterday's sighting, but still below the upper ridgeline. It's taller than a deer, broader too. It moves upright for a few steps, then drops lower, then rises again, adjusting to the slope. I don't hesitate this time. Tower 7, I say into the radio. Movement observed. Mid-sector ascending. Toward upper tree line. Direction north-northeast. Copy, Tower 7. Dispatch replies instantly. Unit responding. End vertical tracking, and conduct low-angle sweep. I comply. I don't try to keep watching it. I don't try to get a better look. I force my attention back to the lower part of the sector, even though every instinct is screaming at me to follow that movement uphill, to understand where it's going. The rules aren't about understanding. They're about containment. The movement doesn't come back down. That's the pattern I'm starting to see. Everything that gets reported goes up. Nothing ever returns. By evening, my head is buzzing with unasked questions. I eat mechanically, barely tasting the food. I check the door twice before nightfall. I linger over the lamp switch, fingers resting on it longer than necessary before flipping it on. The circle of light appears beneath the tower, smaller than I remember. Or maybe I'm just more aware of how much darkness presses against it. Night comes faster than I want it to. At 20 o'clock, I begin night observation. The first hour is quiet. Too quiet. No scraping, no movement. No distant sounds climbing the stairs of my imagination. I almost relax. At 21:22, dispatch contacts me. That's new. Tower 7, the radio crackles. Confirm no current sightings in lower sector. I stiffen. Confirmed, I reply. No current sightings. Copy, dispatch says. Maintain position. Redirect observation to eastern boundary for the next hour. They didn't explain why. They didn't reference a rule. They just told me where to look. I follow the instruction. The eastern boundary of my sector slopes upward, more gradually than the rest. The trees growing thicker and closer together. Visibility is worse there at night, even with binoculars. The darkness pools between trunks like liquid. As I scan, I become aware of something unsettling. The forest doesn't look empty. It looks arranged. Branches curve inward slightly, as if shaped by repeated passage. Clearings don't look random. They look worn. Paths without paths. At 21:40, I hear something again. Not on the stairs this time. From the forest. A sound like breath drawn through too small a space. I freeze, binoculars still raised. The sound comes again, closer. Then again, from a different direction. It's not loud. It doesn't echo. It feels contained, controlled. I don't know which rule applies. I don't wait to decide. Tower 7, I say. Multiple sounds detected within sector. Unable to visually confirm, possibly stationary. There's a pause, then, copy, Tower 7. Unit responding. Take a break and resume observation on the west side, at the next interval. Stationary, the word sticks. I lower the binoculars and step back from the window, forcing myself to breathe. The sounds stop almost immediately, like something responding to the shift in my attention. I don't go back to the window until the interval ends. When I do, the forest looks unchanged. At 23 o'clock, I write in my journal again. Dispatch is initiating contact now. They're asking questions before I report anything. They're redirecting my observation without explanation. It feels like they're moving me around the board, not responding to threats so much as anticipating them. I close the notebook and rub my eyes. I don't see anything else that night. But I feel watched. Not in the obvious way. Not like eyes on me. More like the tower itself as a point of interest now. A marker in the forest that things are navigating around. Morning comes gray and overcast. Day 6. The supply drop is late. That shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it does. I catch myself checking the sky repeatedly, listening for the thump of helicopter blades that never come. At 10:15, dispatch radios in Tower 7. Supply drop delayed due to weather. Maintain schedule. Weather. The sky is overcast, but calm. No heavy wind. No visible storm systems. I don't argue. The day is restless. The forest never fully settles. Movement flickers at the edges of my vision constantly, but every time I focus on it, there's nothing there. I start doubting my own senses, which feels dangerous given how much this job depends on observation. By late afternoon, my nerves are frayed. At 17:50, I spot something I can't explain away. A figure, not moving, standing. It's near the lower boundary of my sector, just within range of the binoculars. Tall, upright, partially obscured by trees, but clearly not an animal. It doesn't sway with the wind. It doesn't shift its weight. It just stands there, facing uphill. Rule 7. If you observe stationary figures or shapes within your sector that do not progress, report duration only. My mouth feels dry. Tower 7, I say. Stationary figure observed. Lower sector. Duration approximately 30 seconds and counting. Copy, Tower 7, dispatch replies. Unit responding. Take a break and resume observation on the west side at the next interval. I don't want to stop looking. I force myself to. When I check again after the interval, the figure is gone. No movement, no retreat, no sign of where it went. It didn't go downhill. That night is worse than the last. The forest is active, but just out of sync with me. Sounds start when I stop listening. Silence falls when I turn my attention back. I feel manipulated, like my awareness itself is being tested. At 22:30, something new happens. The lamp flickers. Just once, a brief dimming, like a blink. My heart leaps into my throat. The light stabilizes immediately, but the damage is done. The darkness beyond seems closer now, like it's taken a step forward. I don't report it. There's no rule for that. I shouldn't. I write it down anyway. Lamp flickered briefly at 20:30. No other anomalies observed. At 23:10, I hear something beneath the tower. Not climbing, not scraping. Walking. Slow, deliberate footsteps moving through the illuminated circle at the base. I look down through the floor panel. There's nothing there. No shadow, no shape. Just the sound of steps on dirt, circling the base of the tower, staying just at the edge of the light. My breathing turns shallow. I reach for the radio. Before I can speak, dispatch does. Tower 7, the voice says. Confirm status. I have movement beneath the tower, I reply. Auditory only. No visual confirmation. Copy, dispatch says. Ground unit responding. Maintain position. Do not observe the base. Do not observe. The footsteps continue for another minute, then fade into the forest. Resolved. The word hangs in my head long after the radio goes quiet. Morning comes again, pale and cold. Day 7. A full week. I look at the calendar pinned to the wall and feel a strange sense of accomplishment mixed with dread. I've lasted longer than I usually do at jobs. That should feel good. Instead, it feels like I've crossed some invisible threshold. The supply drop arrives late morning, finally. I watch the helicopter lower the crate with relief that surprises me with its intensity. The presence of something normal industrial, human loud feels grounding in a way I didn't know I needed. Inside the crate, everything looks standard, except for the note. Tower 7, supplies for days 7 to 9. Continue documentation. Not maintain schedule. Documentation. I stare at the word for a long time. They know I'm writing. Of course they do. The thought settles heavily in my chest. That afternoon, I scan my sector with renewed attention. I don't see anything I can report, but I feel like that's not because nothing is happening. It's because whatever is happening is adjusting, learning, that night. As I sit in the observation cabin with the lamp glowing beneath me, I write more than I watch. If you're reading this because something went wrong, understand this. The towers aren't warning systems. They're not meant to alert the outside world. They're pressure points. Each one holds a line. Each one keeps something moving in the right direction, up. And I don't think the forest cares how many of us it takes to keep that line intact. I close the notebook and lean back, eyes drifting to the dark canopy beyond the glass. The lamp hums softly below. The stairs are empty. For now, and somewhere uphill, something is waiting to see if I make another mistake. By the time I wake on day 8, the tower no longer feels neutral. It isn't hostile, not exactly, but the sense that it's just a structure, a tool, a workplace has faded. Now it feels like a position, a stance, something that exists to be occupied, The way a lookout post exists to be manned, not lived in. I notice it first in my body. I wake tense, shoulders tight, jaw clenched hard enough that my teeth ache. My dreams are shallow and repetitive. Not nightmares so much as loops. Climbing stairs that never end. Watching tree lines slide upward. Radios crackling with voices that stop just short of meaning. The forest outside looks unchanged. That's the problem. I make coffee and force myself to eat, chewing without appetite. The quiet presses in while I do, thick and watchful. I climb to the observation cabin earlier than usual. Like getting there first might give me an advantage. Morning light cuts through the clouds in dull sheets. The mountain line is half shrouded, peaks disappearing into low fog. Visibility is worse than yesterday. The forest below looks flattened, its depth compressed by the haze. I begin the sweep. 10 minutes in, I realize something unsettling. I can predict where movement will appear. Not exactly, but close enough to make my pulse spike. A flicker here, a branch shift there. Each time, my eyes go to the spot before anything actually happens, as if some part of me has already adjusted to the forest's rhythm, or its intent. At 8 o'clock, I radio in. Tower 7, online. Beginning morning observation. There's no pause this time. Copy, Tower 7. Maintained schedule, routine, familiar, almost comforting, almost. I scan the upper sectors longer than usual, letting my gaze rest on the ridgeline. The trees thin slightly there, giving way to rock and scrub. Beyond that, the mountain rises sharply, its slopes dark and severe. Somewhere up there, the things I've been reporting are going. That thought is no longer abstract. I know the direction now. I've watched it happen too many times. Everything moves uphill. Nothing comes back. Around mid-morning, I find myself thinking about the other towers. Not just abstractly, but practically. Their positions, their purpose, their occupants. Morgan said Tower 7, like it was an address, not a home. Dispatch speaks to me like I'm a component, not a person. Which means there are others. I stand and move to the western window, scanning the horizon where my sector fades into someone else's. I can't see another tower, not directly, but I imagine it anyway. Another narrow structure rising above the canopy, another lamp beneath it. Another person inside, following their own laminated sheet, watching. I wonder if they're seeing the same patterns, the same movements angling uphill, the same shapes stopping when observed, resuming when ignored. I wonder if they're writing it down. The thought brings a strange comfort. At 11:30, dispatch contacts me again. Tower 7. Confirm no movement at upper boundary. I glance instinctively toward the ridgeline. Confirmed, I reply. No movement at upper boundary. Copy. Maintain focus on lower sector. Lower sector. They're steering my attention now, not just responding, directing. I comply. And that's when I see it. Two shapes, moving together. They're far enough away that details blur, but close enough that I can tell they're coordinated. One moves, then pauses. The other advances, then waits. They zigzag through the trees, adjusting their path as the terrain changes. They're not hunting, they're navigating. Tower 7, I say, voice steady through sheer effort. Multiple movements observed. Lower sector, coordinated, ascending slowly. The reply comes before I finish the sentence. Copy, Tower 7. Multiple units responding. Cease observation and redirect to southern boundary immediately. Multiple units. My skin prickles. I turn away from the window like it's magnetized, forcing my eyes to the southern edge of my sector. The forest there is dense and quiet, nothing moving. Behind me, I can feel the presence of what I'm not supposed to watch. I don't look back. When the interval ends, and I'm allowed to resume normal observation, the shapes are gone. Not scattered, not retreated, gone. I write it down. Day 8. First coordinated movement. Dispatch responded before full report. Multiple units dispatched. Pattern suggests escalation. The word escalation feels clinical and inadequate. The afternoon drags. The fog lifts slightly, revealing more of the mountain. The forest seems restless now, activity bubbling just beneath the surface without fully breaking through. At 15 o'clock, something changes. I notice it because the birds do. The calls stop abruptly. Not gradually, not fading out, just gone. I freeze mid-sweep. The forest holds still. I wait. A minute passes, 2. Then, from far uphill, I hear a sound that doesn't belong to wind or wildlife. It's low, sustained, a vibration more than a noise, like something enormous shifting its weight against stone. I don't need a rule for this. Tower 7, I say. Auditory anomaly detected. Upper elevation. No visual confirmation. There's a longer pause this time. Then copy. Tower 7. Stand by. Stand by. That's new. I don't redirect. I don't scan. I just wait. Binoculars lowered. Heart pounding. The sound fades after a minute, replaced by normal forest noise, slowly reasserting itself, like the world exhaling. The radio crackles again. Tower 7. Resumes standard observation. That's it. No mention of units. No resolution. Just move on. I don't. Not mentally. That sound stays with me all evening, replaying in my head as I go through the motions of preparing for night. I eat without tasting. I check the lamp twice. I check the door 3 times. At 1950, I pause with my hand on the lamp switch. For a split second, I consider not turning it on. The thought scares me enough that I flip the switch immediately. The lamp floods the base of the tower with light. The boundary is restored. Night falls heavy and fast. The fog returns, thicker now, clinging to the forest like damp cloth. Visibility is terrible. The lamp's light feels weaker against the darkness, swallowed faster than before. I begin night observation. The first hour is quiet, not peaceful tense, like the forest is waiting for something to start. At 21:05, dispatch contacts me again. Tower 7. Confirm observation lamp operational. I glance down through the floor panel. The lamp glows steadily. Confirmed, I reply. Copy, maintain position. The radio goes silent. At 21:20, I hear footsteps again. Not circling this time. Approaching, slow. Measured. Coming straight toward the base of the stairs. I don't look down. I don't want to see it again. The memory of that hand on the railing is enough. Tower 7, I say. Auditory proximity beneath tower. Approaching stairs. Copy. Dispatch replies immediately. Ground unit responding. Do not observe lower structure. The footsteps stop. I hear breathing, not labored, not animal. Patient. The tower creaks softly as weight settles at the base of the stairs. The railing gives a faint groan, like something testing it. I back away from the ladder hatch, heart hammering. Then another sound. A second set of footsteps. Approaching from a different direction. They stop on opposite sides of the tower. I'm surrounded. Tower 7, I whisper. Multiple proximities detected. There's a pause, longer than I like. Then, copy. Multiple units responding. Maintain position. Multiple units, again. The pressure on the stairs increases briefly, then releases. The breathing fades. The footsteps retreat, moving away from the tower in different directions. Resolved, I slump against the wall, knees weak. The night doesn't bring anything else. No more sounds, no movement. Just the tower's slow, exhausted creaking, and my own uneven breathing. Morning comes pale and damp. Day 9, I wake to the sound of the helicopter. Relief hits me so hard, it almost hurts. The supply drop arrives early, the crate descending into the clearing like a gift from a world that still remembers me. I watch it land, then climb down and haul it up with more effort than usual. My arms trembling from tension rather than weight. Inside the crate, the supplies are normal. The note is not. Tower 7, supplies for days 9 to 11. Maintain position. Continue documentation. Do not deviate from assigned sector. No signature, no pleasantries. I sit at the table for a long time, staring at the note. They're reinforcing the boundaries now. Not just physically, but administratively. Don't deviate. As if I could. I spend the morning writing, trying to organize my thoughts. The towers form a line. I'm certain of it now. A chain stretching across the forest and up the mountain. Each one responsible for a slice of territory. Each one pushing whatever appears uphill into the next sector. We're not stopping them. We're slowing them, filtering them, guiding them. That's why we're not allowed to talk to each other. Why our observation is redirected. Why dispatch anticipates reports instead of reacting to them. This isn't surveillance, it's flow control. I write it all down, hands shaking as the implications settle. If something makes it past all the towers past the highest one, then there's nothing left to slow it. The thought sits heavy in my chest all afternoon. At 1640, I see movement again. High up, near the upper boundary, too far to make out clearly, but unmistakably there. It pauses, turns, and for the first time something looks downhill, directly toward my tower. My breath catches. It doesn't start descending. It just considers. I report it immediately. Tower 7. Movement at upper boundary. Stationary. Facing downhill. The reply is instant. Clipped. Copy. Maintain position. Do not engage. Do not observe. Do not observe. I force my eyes away. When I look back minutes later, it's gone. That night, I barely sleep. Every sound jolts me awake. Every creak feels like a warning. I clutch the radio like a lifeline, even though I know help, whatever that means here, isn't really for me. At some point near dawn, I write one last entry before exhaustion claims me. Day 9. Something looked downhill today. That hasn't happened before. Everything else moves up. I don't know if that means it was confused, curious, or finished with its task. I don't know which option scares me more. The tower is holding. For now. But I don't think this system was designed to handle hesitation. And I don't think I'm meant to see what happens when something decides not to follow the flow. I wake with my hands still wrapped around the radio. For a moment I don't remember falling asleep like that. My fingers ache, stiff from gripping plastic too hard for too long. When I loosen them, the radio slips from my palm and thumps softly against the mattress. The sound feels too loud, like I've broken some unspoken rule just by letting it drop. Day 10. The number sits in my head like a weight. Double digits. I've never stayed anywhere this long without feeling the itch to leave, the creeping sense that I've outstayed whatever invisible welcome I was never offered in the first place. Up here, that instinct feels inverted. The idea of leaving doesn't feel like freedom anymore. It feels like exposure. Morning light filters in weakly through the windows. The fog hasn't lifted yet. It clings to the forest and crawls up the sides of the tower, softening the world into vague shapes and gradients. From the observation cabin, the view is almost useless. Trees fade into gray after a short distance, and the mountain line is completely swallowed. I start the morning sweep anyway, because routine is the only thing holding me together now. Nothing visible, nothing moving. Just the slow drift of fog between trunks, like breath exhaled by something too large to see all at once. At 8 o'clock, I radio in. Tower 7 online. Beginning morning observation. The response comes back immediately. Copy, Tower 7. Maintain schedule. No delay, no questions. Like they were already waiting. I make coffee, drink it too fast, burn my tongue. The pain grounds me more than the caffeine does. I eat mechanically, standing at the counter because sitting feels wrong now. Like settling into something I shouldn't. I open my journal and read back through the last few entries. The handwriting changes as the days progress. I hadn't noticed until now. Early pages are neat, measured. Later ones tilt slightly, words crowding each other, lines drifting closer together. The night of the stairs is the worst, ink pressed deep enough to leave impressions on the next page. I trace one of those impressions with my fingertip. This isn't just documentation anymore. It's evidence. Around mid-morning, the fog thins just enough for me to see movement again. High up, near the upper boundary. It's not close, not clear. But it's there, something tall, upright, moving laterally along the slope, instead of up or down. It stops occasionally, then resumes, as if checking its surroundings. I don't wait. Tower 7, I say. Movement observed near upper boundary. Lateral movement. Elevation steady. There's a pause, longer than usual. Then copy, Tower 7. Unit responding. Cease observation and redirect to lower sector. The word unit sounds heavier today, less procedural, more strained. I comply, but my thoughts don't follow my eyes. They stay fixed on that upper line, imagining what's happening just out of view. Imagining other towers lighting their lamps. Other lookouts receiving instructions. Other reports stacking up somewhere I can't see. The idea of the system as a whole, this line of towers, This controlled flow feels more real than ever now, and more fragile. By afternoon, the fog is gone. The sky clears to a washed-out blue. Sunlight pours down onto the canopy, lighting it in uneven patches. The forest looks deceptively peaceful. I write for hours, filling page after page with observations and thoughts I don't know what to do with. I write about the way Dispatch's voice has changed subtly over the last few days, not in tone, but in timing. How responses are faster, more anticipatory. How they initiate contact now instead of waiting for me. I write about the feeling that I'm no longer just watching the forest. I'm being watched too. At 15:20, the radio crackles. Tower 7. Confirm no deviation from assigned sector. The question catches me off guard. Confirmed, I reply. No deviation. Copy. The radio goes silent again. I sit there staring at it, pulse thudding in my ears. They're checking compliance now, not just observation. Compliance. That night, the air feels wrong before darkness even fully settles. The temperature drops faster than usual. The wind dies completely, leaving the forest unnaturally still. Even the tower's constant creaking diminishes, as if the structure itself is holding its breath. At 19:45, I turn on the observation lamp. The light flickers briefly before stabilizing. I freeze, staring down through the floor panel. It holds steady. I don't report it. Not yet. At 20 o'clock, I begin night observation. Visibility is good tonight. Clear sky, bright stars. The mountain line is sharply defined against the darkness, a jagged silhouette cutting into the sky. That's when I notice something new. Lights, not like the lamp, not artificial. Small points of pale illumination scattered high up the slope, well beyond my sector. Too numerous to be stars. Too irregular to be anything I recognize. They drift slowly, sometimes clustering, sometimes spreading apart. My breath catches. They look purposeful. I lift the binoculars, hands shaking slightly. The lights aren't fixed. They move relative to the terrain, weaving between trees, occasionally disappearing behind rock outcroppings, before reappearing. I don't know which rule applies. I don't care. Tower 7, I say. Visual anomaly observed. Multiple light sources at upper elevation. Movement coordinated. The reply is instant. Copy, Tower 7. Multiple units responding. Do not track. Do not observe. Do not observe. Again. I lower the binoculars, forcing my eyes away, even though every part of me wants to keep watching. The lights drift out of my peripheral vision. When I glance back a few minutes later, they're gone. Completely. The mountain line returns to darkness, stars sharp and cold above it. I feel like I've just missed something important. Something I wasn't meant to see. At 21:10, I hear the first sound beneath the tower. Not footsteps, dragging something heavy, pulling itself across the ground, within the lamp's circle. The sound is slow, wet, deliberate. I don't look down. I can picture it too clearly already. Tower 7, I say. Auditory contact beneath tower. Dragging movement. No visual. Copy, dispatch replies. Ground unit responding. Maintain position. The sound continues for nearly a minute, circling the base of the tower just outside the lamp's brightest area. I can hear it pause occasionally, as if adjusting its grip on the ground. Then it stops. Silence snaps back into place. My heart keeps racing long after the sound is gone. I'm still shaking when dispatch radios again. Tower 7, confirmed lamp operational. I glance down. The light is steady. Confirmed, I reply. Copy, maintain observation. The rest of the night is quiet, but it's the worst kind of quiet, the kind that feels like aftermath rather than peace. Morning comes late. Clouds roll in again, thick and heavy, casting the forest in flat gray light. I wake with a headache and a sour taste in my mouth. My body feels worn, like I've been bracing against something for too long without realizing it. Day 11. I force myself through the morning routine, but my focus keeps slipping. I catch myself staring out the window without actually seeing anything. My thoughts loop back to the lights on the mountain, to the dragging sound, to the way dispatch shut me down faster than ever. They don't want me watching anymore. They want me present, but passive. At 10 o'clock, the supply drop arrives. The helicopter's approach is a shock of noise that makes me flinch violently. I watch it hover and lower the crate with a mix of relief and resentment. Relief at the reminder of the outside world. Resentment that it doesn't stay longer. I haul the crate up and open it immediately. Supplies are normal. The note is not. Tower 7. Supplies for days 11 to 13. Maintain position. Do not investigate anomalies. Report only per addendum. My stomach drops. They've never explicitly told me not to investigate before. The rules always assumed I wouldn't. This feels like escalation. I sit heavily at the table, the note crumpled in my fist. They know I'm pushing against the edges now. They know I'm trying to understand instead of just observe. And they don't like it. That afternoon, I catch myself watching the staircase more than the forest. Watching the lamp. Watching the edge of its light, like something might break through it at any second. At 16:30, dispatch contacts me again. Tower 7. Confirm tower integrity. I hesitate. Confirming. No visible damage. Copy. Maintain position. Integrity. Not safety. Not status. Integrity. That night, the forest comes alive. Not in a rush. Not in a burst of activity. But in a slow, coordinated awakening that makes my skin crawl. Sounds rise from multiple directions at once. Branches snapping uphill. Low vocalizations I can't place. The occasional thud of something heavy moving through undergrowth. None of it enters my sector fully. None of it crosses the lamp's boundary. It's like they're gathering. I make report after report, my voice growing hoarse as I speak into the radio. Tower 7. Multiple auditory contacts. Upper sector. Copy. Units responding. Tower 7. Stationary shapes observed near lower boundary. Copy. Unit responding. Tower 7. Coordinated movement detected. Direction uphill. Copy. Multiple units responding. The responses blur together. The word unit loses meaning. At some point after midnight, the lamp flickers again. This time, it doesn't stabilize immediately. The light dims, brightens, dims again, like a heartbeat skipping. Panic floods through me. Tower 7, I say urgently. Observation lamp, unstable. There's a delay. Then, copy, standby, standby. The lamp steadies after a few seconds, returning to its normal glow. The radio crackles again. Tower 7, resume observation. That's it. No reassurance, no explanation. I don't think they can fix it anymore. I don't think this system is as in control as it pretends to be. Morning breaks with a weak, colorless light. Day 12. I look at myself in the small mirror by the sink and barely recognize the person staring back. My eyes look sunken. My face is drawn. I look older than I did when I arrived, like the forest has been slowly pulling something out of me. I write one long entry before starting the day's sweep. They don't want understanding. They want compliance. The rules aren't about keeping me safe. They're about keeping the process clean. Whatever is moving uphill isn't meant to be stopped here. Just managed, redirected, delayed. And I think the towers are only effective as long as the people inside them. Don't ask why. I close the journal and climb back into the observation cabin. The forest waits. The mountain looms. And for the first time since I arrived, I seriously consider what happens if I stop following the rules. Not because I want to rebel, but because I'm no longer sure the rules can protect me. Or anyone else. I don't make the mistake on purpose. That's important to say, even if no one ever reads this except me. I didn't decide to break a rule out of curiosity or defiance. I didn't wake up and think, today's the day, I see what happens if I push back. It happens because I'm tired. Bone deep, grinding tired that doesn't go away with sleep because sleep doesn't come cleanly anymore. The kind of tired that makes your thoughts lag just enough for instinct to get ahead of procedure. Day 12 bleeds into day 13 without a clean edge between them. Morning comes gray and cold, the clouds hanging low enough that the forest feels compressed, like it's been pressed flat against the ground. The mountain line is barely visible, its outline smudged into the sky. I do the morning check-in. Tower 7 online. Beginning morning observation. Copy, Tower 7. Maintain schedule. The words land, dull and familiar. I start the sweep, but my focus keeps slipping. I catch myself staring at the same patch of trees for too long. my eyes trying to pull meaning out of shadows that don't quite form into anything. The forest feels crowded today. Not visibly, there's no obvious movement, but perceptually, like the space between things has narrowed. At 9:40, I hear a sound that doesn't belong. It's faint, distant, but distinct enough to register through the fog in my head. A single, sharp crack. Not a branch snapping under wind stress. Not the hollow thud of something falling. A clean break. I freeze mid-sweep, binoculars still raised. The sound comes again, closer this time. Crack. Something is moving through deadwood uphill. Not rushing, not careless, applying just enough force to move efficiently. I know what the rule says. If you observe movement ascending toward the upper tree line, report direction and elevation only. I also know what dispatch has been telling me for days now. Do not observe, do not track, do not investigate. I hesitate, just for a second. And in that second, the sound changes direction. It angles downward, not sharply, not directly toward me, but enough. My pulse spikes. I lift the binoculars higher, adjusting focus toward the midsector. Through the haze, I catch a glimpse of movement between the trees. Something tall, hunched slightly to accommodate the slope. It pauses, then shifts again, this time more decisively downhill. I report it. Tower 7, I say. Movement observed, midsector, direction correcting. Now angling downhill. The reply is slower than I expect. Copy, Tower 7, dispatch says. Stand by again. I keep watching. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But something about the way it's moving, testing the slope, adjusting its path triggers a cold, focused clarity in my mind. This isn't random. This isn't confused. It's adapting. The shape moves into a small clearing, and for a fraction of a second, the fog thins enough for me to see more of it than I ever have before. It's taller than a man. Its proportions are wrong, not grotesquely so. Not obviously monstrous, but subtly off in a way that makes my eyes resist settling on it. Limbs slightly too long. Torso angled forward, as if it's more comfortable leaning into the world than standing upright. It doesn't have fur. Its surface looks matte, like skin that doesn't reflect light properly. Pale, but not white. More like the color of stone that's been buried for a long time. Then it turns its head and looks up. Not at the tower. At the mountain, as if listening. I realize, too late, that I've been holding the binoculars steady on it for far longer than any rule allows. The radio crackles sharply. Tower 7, dispatch says, voice clipped. Cease observation immediately. I lower the binoculars, heart hammering. Copy, I reply, my voice too quick, too tight. Ceasing observation. There's a pause. Confirm compliance. I swallow. Confirmed. The radio goes quiet. When I look back after the interval, the clearing is empty. Whatever it was has moved on. I log the report with shaking hands, careful to strip it of detail. Direction, elevation, correction, no description, no speculation. But my journal gets everything. Day 13, first confirmed, downhill correction. Visual clarity increased at midsector. It is learning. Or it is choosing. Dispatch reacted faster than before. I think I wasn't meant to see it turn its head. The rest of the day feels wrong. The forest doesn't settle. Sounds drift in and out of range, never staying long enough to categorize. I keep catching glimpses of movement at the edges of my vision that vanish the moment I try to focus on them. At 14:10, dispatch contacts me without prompting. Tower 7, confirm no further downhill movement. Confirmed, I reply. Copy, maintain position. I want to ask questions. I want to say, what happens if it keeps coming down? I want to say, what happens if it reaches the last tower? I don't. By evening, my nerves feel raw. I go through the night preparation with exaggerated care, double-checking everything as if thoroughness alone might protect me. I linger by the door longer than usual before turning on the lamp, listening to the forest below for any sign of movement. Nothing. The lamp clicks on, flooding the base of the tower with light. The boundary holds. For now, at 20 o'clock, I begin night observation. The first hour is quiet enough that I almost convince myself the day's events were a fluke. Fog plays tricks on depth perception. Exhaustion amplifies fear. That's all this is. At 21:17, I hear footsteps, Fast, not circling, not testing. Approaching at a pace that makes my stomach drop. I don't wait. Tower 7, I say. Rapid approach detected beneath tower. The reply comes instantly. Copy. Ground unit responding. Maintain position. The footsteps enter the lamp's circle. I look down, despite myself. It's not one of the tall shapes. This one is lower to the ground, moving on all fours. Its limbs bend too sharply at the joints, folding in ways that make my skin crawl. It crosses the illuminated dirt quickly, pauses at the base of the stairs, and lifts its head. Its face, if that's what it is, indistinct. Features blur together, refusing to resolve into anything familiar. But I know it's looking at the tower. At me, it doesn't climb. It waits. Seconds stretch. Then, from the darkness beyond the lamp, something else moves. Another shape enters the edge of the light. Taller, slower. The one from earlier. They don't touch. They don't acknowledge each other. They simply occupy the same space, like pieces of a system aligning. Tower 7, I whisper. Multiple entities beneath tower. One stationary at stairs. One entering lamp perimeter. There's a pause. Too long, then copy. Multiple units responding. Do not observe. Too late. The taller one reaches out and grips the railing. The metal shrieks as it bends under the pressure. Bolts strain. Wood groans. The lower one shifts, positioning itself at the base, like it's anchoring something. They're working together. The realization hits me like ice water. This isn't a test. This isn't curiosity. It's a rehearsal. The taller one pulls itself onto the first step. The tower shudders. I back away from the ladder hatch, heart slamming against my ribs. Tower 7, I say, voice breaking. They're climbing. Copy, dispatch replies, calm and terrifying. Units responding. Maintain position. The staircase protests as weight moves upward. Each step bends, the sound of metal deforming carrying up into the structure. The railing bows inward, folding slightly where too many fingers grip it. I hear the lower one move too, shifting closer to the base, bracing. The door shudders, once, twice. Not slammed, pushed. Testing resistance. I press myself against the wall, breath coming in shallow gasps. The radio crackles again. Tower 7, dispatch says. Stand by. Stand by for what? The pressure on the door increases. The frame groans, the reinforced metal flexing just enough for me to see it ripple. Then a new sound, distant, deep, a vibration that runs through the tower's bones. The entities freeze, both of them. The pressure on the door stops. The grip on the railing loosens. From somewhere uphill, a sound carries through the forest low. Resonant, unmistakably, a signal of some kind. Not a roar, a call. The entities retreat. Not hurried, not panicked. They descend the stairs with the same deliberate care they used to climb them, then move out of the lamp's circle and vanish into the trees. The tower settles, creaking softly as the stress eases. The radio crackles. Tower 7, dispatch says. Situation resolved. Resume standard observation. Resolved. I sink to the floor, shaking so hard my teeth chatter. This time, I don't believe them, because I saw it. I saw coordination. I saw intent. I saw them respond to something else, something higher, something with authority. Whatever is uphill isn't just drawing them, it's directing them. Morning comes thin and pale. Day 14. I look at the stairs in daylight and see the damage clearly now. Bent railing, warped steps, stress fractures in the wood. The system didn't clean this up. They couldn't. I run my hand over the damaged metal, feeling how close it came to giving way. If that call hadn't come, I don't finish the thought. I write for hours, documenting everything in detail, because I'm certain now that the journal matters more than the reports. The official system is breaking down. The rules are lagging behind what's actually happening, and I think dispatch knows it. At 11 o'clock, the radio crackles. Tower 7, dispatch says. Confirm tower status. I hesitate. Structural damage observed on staircase, I reply. Railing compromised. Steps bent. There's a long silence. Then copy, maintain position. Further instruction pending. Pending. I stare at the radio. I'm not waiting anymore. Whatever this job was meant to be, it's changed. Or maybe it hasn't and I'm just finally seeing it clearly. I look toward the forest, toward the road that leads back down to the town. It's a long walk, but it's daylight. And for the first time since I arrived, staying feels more dangerous than leaving. I don't decide anything yet, but the thought takes root. And it doesn't let go. I decide to leave in the daylight. I don't announce it. I don't radio it. I don't write it down immediately, because the moment I put it on paper, it stops being a thought and becomes a plan. And plans feel loud up here. Plans feel like invitations. So I carry the idea around all morning like a stone in my pocket. Heavy, constant. I keep touching it, checking it's still there. The staircase damage looks worse in full light. Yesterday, it was just bent railing and warped steps. Today, after a night of cold settling into metal, the distortions feel sharper. One of the lower steps sits at a slight angle, the bolts on one side visibly stressed. The wood supports beneath it have a hairline crack that runs diagonally, as if the structure tried to split and thought better of it. The lamppost is intact. The switch works. The circle of light still appears when I test it briefly at noon, bright and steady on the ground below. But I can't stop thinking about how thin that boundary is. A single bulb, a single cable, a single point of failure. Dispatch hasn't contacted me since the further instruction pending message. No repairs, no supervisor, no helicopter with a replacement railing, pending. As if time is something they can just hold in their hand and decide when to release. I do the morning check-in. Tower 7 online, I say. Beginning morning observation. There's a delay, a soft hiss of static. Then, copy, Tower 7. Maintain schedule. The voice sounds the same. Calm, controlled. But the static behind it is heavier than usual, like the signal is being pushed through something damp. I scan my sector because it's what I meant to do. I log nothing because nothing wants to be logged. The forest is quiet, too quiet for midday. Birds call in small bursts and then fall silent again. The wind moves through the canopy in slow waves, but the undergrowth feels still, watchful. I keep looking at the road line on the map. It's a thin gray scar cutting down through the trees toward the town. Not a road exactly, more like a service track that eventually connects to something paved. Then to houses, then to the normal world where people argue about parking and complain about prices and live their lives without ever looking up at the mountain. I picture myself walking it with the sun on my shoulders, just putting distance between me and this tower until it's a memory. Then I picture the fog rolling in behind me, swallowing the track, and I feel my stomach tighten. I decide on something smaller. Not escape yet, just preparation. I pack a bag. Light, practical water, food, torch, batteries, first aid, my notebook, the laminated rules, my journal. I hesitate over the radio. It's bolted down. It's part of the tower, part of the system. It isn't mine. But I take the handheld unit anyway, the one used for short-range checks when you're outside in daylight. It fits in my palm, heavier than it looks. I clip it to my belt, like a security guard, out of habit. Then I stop and stare at myself, standing in this creaking wooden tower with a packed bag, like someone about to commit a crime. Leaving shouldn't feel illegal. But everything about this job has trained me to treat deviation as a threat. Around 15:30, the air shifts. It's subtle at first, a slight thickening, like humidity rising without heat. The light changes, not dimming, exactly flattening, as if the sun has moved behind a thin veil. Shadows lose their sharpness. The forest's colors turn dull, like someone has rubbed ash over them. I stand at the observation window and feel my skin prickle. This is the feeling I get just before something happens. Not fear, not yet. Recognition. I do a sweep of the upper boundary and see nothing. Then I do it again and realize I'm not seeing nothing. I'm seeing absence. A stretch of upper canopy that should be shifting with the wind is still. Not calm still, dead still. Leaves frozen in place, as if they've been lacquered. I lift the binoculars, focus hard. The stillness is too uniform to clean a boundary. Something is holding the air in place. My mouth goes dry. Tower 7, I say into the radio. Upper boundary anomaly. Canopy static across a wide band. No movement. There's a pause. Then, copy, Tower 7. Stand by. Stand by. The words land with a cold weight. I wait. Radio held close, eyes fixed on that band of still trees. I expect another instruction redirect. Cease observation. Anything. Instead, the radio stays silent. I look down at the clock. 15:42. The stillness spreads, not quickly, not dramatically, just growing, like ink soaking through paper. A wider section of the tree line stops moving, then another. The wind continues everywhere else, but the upper slope becomes a strange, unmoving patchwork. I hear something then. That deep vibration again. Far uphill, it isn't a sound that travels. It's a sound that settles. It seems to come through the ground, through the tower's supports, through the bones in my feet. I grip the window frame. The forest below stays quiet, as if the lower sector is holding its breath. The radio crackles. Tower 7, dispatch says. Maintain position. Do not deviate from assigned sector. My throat tightens. I have upper boundary. Maintain position, the voice repeats, firmer. I swallow whatever else I was going to say. Copy. I manage. The vibration fades slowly, leaving behind an echo of pressure in the air, like the world is listening for its own heartbeat. The stillness at the upper boundary remains. Even when the wind returns to the rest of the canopy, that band stays dead. It feels like a decision. Evening comes too fast. The light drains from the forest in long, reluctant stretches. The sky turns the color of bruised metal. The temperature drops sharply, cold settling into the tower's joints and making every movement louder. I eat without appetite. I keep my packed bag by the door. The idea of leaving in the morning feels weaker now. Not because I don't want it, but because something about the air tells me morning might not be a clean exit. Morning feels far away, a luxury. At 1940, I stand at the lamp switch again. My hand hovers over it. I think about the note. Maintain position. Do not deviate. I flip it on anyway. The lamp beneath the tower snaps to life, throwing its harsh circle onto the ground. The base of the stairs gleams. The first few steps shine faintly. Beyond the circle, darkness gathers like a crowd. I lock the door. I check the hinges. I check the frame. Then I climb to the observation cabin and begin the night shift. Tower 7, beginning night observation. I say into the radio. Copy. Tower 7. Maintain schedule. Report per addendum. The voice is calm. It doesn't match the night. At 20:30, I see movement far off in the lower sector, not near the tower. Near the outer edge of my assigned slice. A cluster of shapes moving between trees. Too distant for detail. I report it. Tower 7. Multiple movements, lower sector, west boundary. Direction uphill. Copy. Dispatch replies immediately. Multiple units responding. Cease observation and redirect east. I do. At 21:05, I hear something beneath the tower. Not footsteps. Scraping. Metal on metal. Slow, grinding pressure that makes my teeth ache. I don't look down. Tower 7, I say. Auditory contact at base of stairs. Scraping. Possible structural interference. Copy. Ground unit responding. Dispatch says. Do not observe lower structure. The scraping continues for 10 seconds longer, then stops. Silence returns so abruptly, it feels like the tower has been unplugged from the world. I wait. At 21:12, the lamp flickers. Not a blink, a stutter. Bright dim, bright dim. My pulse spikes. Tower 7, I say sharply. Observation lamp, unstable. There's a delay. Then, copy. Stand by, the lamp steadies. But it doesn't feel steady. It feels like it's holding on. At 21:30, something enters the edge of the lamp's circle. I see it in reflection, first movement in the glass, a shape cutting through the light's boundary. I turn slowly and look down through the floor panel. A figure stands at the edge of the light. Tall, upright. Shoulders too narrow, arms too long. It doesn't step fully into the circle. It keeps itself half in shadow, as if testing what the light will allow. It tilts its head slightly. Not like an animal. Like a person trying to understand a lock. My hands start shaking. Not from fear, exactly from adrenaline, sharp and immediate. Tower 7, I whisper into the radio. Visual contact at base. One tall entity, at lamp perimeter. Stationary. Copy. Dispatch replies instantly. Unit responding. Do not observe. Too late. The figure lifts one hand, long fingers. Too many joint sand touches the railing. The metal shrieks. The tower creaks in protest. It pulls. Not violently, carefully. The railing bends inward by an inch, then two. My breath catches. This isn't a rehearsal anymore. It's taking measurements. I force my eyes away, because the instruction is clear, but I can still hear it. Metal deforming. Bolts straining. A steady, patient application of force. Then another sound. A second figure moving into the light from the other side. Lower, faster, on all fours. It crosses the lamp's circle with the quick, smooth motion of something that knows exactly what it's doing. It positions itself at the base of the stairs, like a brace, like a tool. My stomach turns. Tower 7, I say, voice tight. Second entity, entered lamp. Lower quadruped, both present at stairs. There's a pause. Then copy. Multiple units responding. Maintain position. Maintain position. The taller one starts climbing. I hear the first step buckle. The stair's metal edge shrieks as weight settles onto it. The railing bows inward again, folding like soft wood, even though it isn't. The tower shudders. The quadruped moves too, shifting beneath the staircase, pressing against supports, as if stabilizing the climb. They're working together. The steps come faster now, not rushed, but continuous. Upward movement with purpose. I back away from the ladder hatch and press myself against the wall, near the door. The door shudders. Once, twice. Then a slow, heavy pressure begins to build, like someone leaning their full weight against it. The frame groans. The metal bows inward slightly. I can see it. The surface ripples under force. Tower 7, I say, into the radio, voice breaking. Entity at door. Pressure increasing. Staircase being torn. Copy. Dispatch replies. Calm. Units responding. Maintain position. I want to scream at them. What do you mean, maintain position? There's nowhere else to go. But my voice doesn't obey that impulse. It stays trapped behind my teeth. The pressure increases again. The hinges creak. The door gives a fraction of an inch. I hear the sound of claws or hands dragging across metal, testing seams, feeling for weakness. The tower shakes as something heavier shifts on the staircase. Then the railing screams. A sharp, tearing sound. Metal snaps. I feel the vibration through the floorboards. The staircase is being dismantled as it climbs, not accidentally. Not in a frenzy. Deliberately, taking pieces as it goes. The pressure at the door surges. The frame groans loudly enough to make my ears ring. The bolt holds. For now, I grab the radio with both hands like it's something solid. Tower 7, I say, voice hoarse. Door integrity compromised. Staircase failure imminent. There's a pause, longer than any pause so far. Then dispatch speaks, and for the first time the voice isn't just calm, it's strained. Tower 7, stand by, stand by. The worst phrase, because it means we can't fix this fast enough. The tower shudders again, harder. A massive impact hits the door. Not a push this time, but a slam, like the thing has decided patience is no longer efficient. The door bows inward visibly. The bolt screeches. The frame cracks, wood fibers snapping behind the metal reinforcement. I stagger backward, heart hammering so hard it hurts. I can hear it breathing outside, close, right at the seam. Not animal breath, not frantic. A slow inhale, a slow exhale, like it's tasting the air inside. Then a scraping sound, metal on metal at the top of the tower, above me. My blood runs cold. The antenna, it's not just trying to get in, something is up top. I look up through the ladder hatch toward the observation cabin and see the ceiling vibrate slightly, like weight has shifted overhead. The radio crackles. Tower 7, dispatch says. Confirm antenna status. I almost laugh. A sharp, hysterical sound that dies in my throat. It's on the tower, I say. Something's on the roof. Static floods the line for a second, heavy and wet. Then, copy. Maintain position. Maintain position. The metal scraping above intensifies, a steady tearing sound that makes my skin crawl. Bolts protesting, metal bending. Something wrenching the antenna mount free with mechanical precision. The door shudders again. This time, the bolt slips. Not fully, but enough. The door opens a fraction of an inch, a thin black gap appearing at the seam. Cold air pours in, sharp and damp, carrying the smell of earth and something else, something stale, like deep caves. A hand too long, too jointed slides into the gap, fingers curling around the door's edge. The metal creaks under its grip. I stumble back, throat tight. The radio crackles one last time. Tower 7, dispatch says, voice breaking through static. Unit, the transmission cuts off. The antenna screams as it tears free. Then silence, not radio silence, total silence. The hum of the tower, the wind, everything, gone. The only sound left is the slow creak of the door being pulled open. My mind goes blank for a moment, pure animal panic wiping everything else clean. Then light, not the lamp. The first pale hint of dawn pressing against the windows. I don't understand it at first. My body is too locked in fear to process anything beyond immediate threat. Then the forest changes. A distant call carries from uphill, low resonant. Authority. The hand on the door freezes. The pressure stops. The scraping above ceases. For a few seconds, everything holds in place like a paused breath. Then the hand withdraws. Slowly the gap in the door remains, but the pull eases. I hear movement on the staircase, what's left of it descending, not running. Retreating with controlled speed. The sound of the quadruped moving through the undergrowth fades quickly into darkness. The tower settles, shuddering as the stress releases. The dawn grows stronger. Gray light fills the windows, softening the edges of everything. The forest begins to make noise again, birds hesitant, then louder, wind returning in gentle pulses. I stand there shaking, staring at the door, not trusting what my senses are telling me. It's leaving because the sun is coming up, not because it's afraid of me. Because night is its window. Because this system, whatever it is, still depends on that boundary. And my tower has just been damaged beyond any rule sheet. When I finally move, it's slow and careful, like my body doesn't belong to me anymore. I lock the bolt again. It barely catches. The frame is warped. The door won't seal properly. I climb to the observation cabin with legs that feel hollow. The roof hatch is open. Cold morning air pours in. The antenna is gone. Not bent. Gone. The mount has been torn cleanly away, leaving exposed wiring and splintered wood around the base. No radio. No dispatch. No Unix. No system. I stand there looking out over the forest in the growing daylight and feel something shift inside me. Something heavy dropping into place. This is the point the rules don't cover. This is the point where observation becomes survival. I go back down, grab my packed bag, and sit at the table long enough to steady my breathing. Then I open my journal with hands that won't stop trembling and write the only thing that matters right now. Day 15. The staircase is compromised. The door nearly failed. The antenna is destroyed. Dispatch is gone. I am alone. I am leaving as soon as I can see the trail clearly. If anyone finds this tower, and the lamp is off, turn it back on before you do anything else. Do not stand at the base. Do not look into the trees. Just turn the light on and get inside. I stop writing and stare at the page. Day 15. That's wrong. This was meant to be 2 weeks, 14 days. But time up here has been sliding, stretching, overlapping. I swallow hard and force myself to focus on the only thing I can control. The sun is up. The forest is louder. The night window is closed. For now. I shoulder my bag, step to the door, and look out at the damaged staircase. Bent rails, missing steps, twisted metal where something tore pieces away as it climbed. Getting down is going to be dangerous, but staying is worse. I take one slow breath, put my hand on the handle, and step into the morning, because if I wait for night again, I don't think the tower will hold a second time. I take the stairs one step at a time. That sounds obvious, but it isn't. Not here. Not now. The staircase is no longer something you trust with your weight. It's a collection of parts that used to be a staircase. Bent and stressed and held together by bolts that have already proven they can scream before they fail. I test each step with my foot before committing to it, shifting my weight slowly, listening to how the metal complains beneath me. The railing is worse. Sections of it bow inward at strange angles. warped like soft clay that's been pressed and released too many times. In one place, the metal has been torn completely free, leaving a jagged edge that catches on my jacket as I pass. I hiss in pain as it scratches my arm, then freeze, heart racing, as if the sound itself might carry. The forest doesn't care. It's morning, full daylight now. Sunlight filters through the trees in pale shafts, illuminating drifting motes of dust and pollen. Birds call, tentative at first, then louder, more confident. Somewhere far off, something knocks against wood, probably a branch falling under its own weight, probably. I force myself not to rush. Rushing is how you miss a step. Rushing is how you fall. When my boots finally hit the ground at the base of the tower, my knees almost give out with relief. I stand there for a moment in the open, directly beneath the structure, and immediately feel exposed. The tower looms above me, taller and more fragile than it ever looked from inside. From here, the damage is obvious. Bent supports, missing sections of stair, the lamp still mounted beneath, mercifully intact. I glance at it instinctively. It's off. I hesitate, then reach up and flip the switch. The lamp comes on, even in daylight, casting its pale circle onto the dirt and needles at the base of the tower. It looks ridiculous in the sun, a hard artificial glow competing with natural light. I don't care. I remember what I wrote. If anyone finds this tower and the lamp is off, turn it back on before you do anything else. I step out of the circle immediately, heart pounding, and force myself not to look into the trees. I shoulder my bag, adjust the strap until it sits right, and turn my back on the tower. Walking away feels wrong. Not dangerous wrong. Like I'm breaking a rule that exists deeper than the laminated sheet ever did. The tower creaks softly behind me as the wind catches it, and for a moment I have the absurd urge to apologize. To tell it I didn't mean to leave it like this. I don't. I start down the trail. The service track is narrow, barely more than a suggestion of a path where the ground has been compacted by vehicles and footsteps over the years. It slopes gently at first, winding through trees that crowd close on either side. Sunlight filters through the canopy, dappling the ground in shifting patterns that make it hard to judge distance. Every shadow looks like something crouched and waiting. I keep my pace steady, not fast, not slow. I listen constantly, not just for obvious sounds, but for changes in rhythm. The forest has a cadence when it's behaving normally. Wind, birds, insects, my own footsteps crunching softly on gravel and needles. Anything that doesn't fit stands out immediately. For the first hour, nothing happens. The trail dips and rises, curves around outcroppings of rock, skirts the edges of shallow ravines. I keep checking the sky, the position of the sun, estimating how long I have before evening starts to creep in. I don't know exactly how long the walk to the next tower will take, but I know it's closer than the town. Closer feels safer. That thought surprises me. I've spent days wanting to get back to civilization, to roads and buildings and people. Now, the idea of reaching another tower, another lamp, another door feels like a refuge, even knowing what I know. At least the towers are designed to hold something back. The forest isn't. Around midday, I hear it. A low sound, far off uphill. Not the deep vibration from before. Not a call, movement. Something large, shifting through trees, dislodging branches with careless strength. I stop dead, breath caught halfway in. The sound doesn't move toward me. It moves laterally, parallel to the slope, keeping its distance. I wait. After a minute, the sound fades, replaced by normal forest noise. I let out the breath slowly and keep walking. I don't think they're hunting me. Not yet. I think they're tracking the system. And I've stepped outside it. The trail forks after another hour, splitting into two narrower paths. One continues downhill, toward the town. The other angles upward and east, toward the next tower's sector. I stand there for a long time, staring at the fork. The downhill path looks inviting, wider, more worn. It promises roads and people and help. It promises distance from the mountain. The uphill path is narrower, less used. It disappears into thicker trees almost immediately. I check my watch. It's still early afternoon. I think of the antenna torn free. The radio going silent. Dispatch's last broken transmission. If the system is failing, it's failing from the top down. That means the downhill path might already be compromised. The thought settles like ice in my stomach. I take the uphill path. The climb is harder than it looks. The slope steepens quickly, the ground uneven with roots and loose stones. I have to watch every step, using my hands occasionally to steady myself against tree trunks slick with moss. Sweat prickles under my jacket despite the cool air. As I climb, the forest changes. The trees grow taller, their trunks thicker, bark rough and scarred. The undergrowth thins out in places, replaced by bare earth and rock. Visibility improves slightly, long sight lines opening up between widely spaced trunks. I don't like that. I prefer when the forest feels cluttered, when it feels like it's hiding as much as I am. The first sign that I'm close to the next tower is the silence. It hits abruptly, like walking into a soundproofed room. Bird calls cut off mid-note, the wind drops. Even the insects seem to pause. My skin prickles. I slow my pace, every sense tuned outward. Then I see it. Another tower, rising above the tree line ahead. It looks like mine, but older. The wood is darker, more weathered. The staircase is intact at least from this distance. The lamp beneath it is off. That's wrong. I stop at the edge of the clearing, heart hammering. Daylight. The lamp should be off during the day. I know that. Still, the sight of it dark beneath the tower makes my stomach churn. I approach cautiously, every step measured. The clearing around the base is disturbed, not torn up like a fight. More, scuffed. Patches of ground where needles have been scraped away. Deep impressions in the dirt that don't look like footprints, so much as pressure marks, as if something heavy stood there for a long time without moving. I scan the staircase. No obvious damage. I stepped closer. The door halfway up the tower is ajar, just slightly. Cold dread floods through me. Hello, I call, hating how small my voice sounds in the open air. No response. I circle the base slowly, eyes never leaving the structure. I check the lamp switch. It works. I turn it on. The circle of light snaps into place beneath the tower, illuminating the disturbed ground in harsh detail. The impressions become clearer now on gated shapes, shallow but wide, like something rested its weight there. Something waited. I step back instinctively, keeping myself just outside the light. I remember my own words. Do not stand at the base. I swallow and force myself to act. If there's someone inside, they need help. If there isn't, I need answers. I climb. This staircase is in better shape than mine was, but I don't trust it anyway. Each step echoes loudly in the stillness, the sound carrying up into the tower like a signal flare. Halfway up, the smell hits me. Copper, stale, heavy, unmistakable. Blood. My hands tighten on the railing. I reach the door and push it open slowly. Inside, the living space is in disarray, supplies scattered. A chair overturned, papers strewn across the floor. The journal, someone else's journal, lies open on the table, pages warped and stained dark. I don't see the body at first. My brain refuses to process it until I step further inside, and my foot brushes against something soft. I look down. The lookout lies, slumped against the far wall, half hidden in shadow. Their throat is torn open, the damage brutal and precise, not chewed, not ripped randomly. Opened. Their eyes are open, staring at nothing. I stagger back, bile rising in my throat. This isn't a missing person. This isn't an accident. This is what happens when the system fails. I force myself to breathe, slow and shallow, and close the door behind me. I don't want the forest seeing this. I don't know why that thought matters, but it does. I approach the body carefully, fighting the urge to turn away. There's no sign of struggle beyond the initial attack. No broken bones. No defensive wounds. Whatever did this knew exactly where to strike. I pick up the journal with shaking hands. The last entry is dated yesterday. The handwriting is frantic. Words crowded and uneven. They stopped responding. The lamp flickered. I heard them on the stairs, but dispatch said, "Stand by. Something is wrong up here. If anyone finds this, do not." The rest of the page is smeared, the words trailing off into nothing. I close the journal gently and set it back on the table. I feel hollow. This person did everything right. They followed the rules, they reported, they waited, and it didn't save them. I look up at the ladder, leading to the observation cabin. Part of me doesn't want to know. The other part knows I have to. Up top, the cabin is wrecked. The antenna mount is bent, wires hanging loose. One of the windows is shattered, glass scattered across the floor. The radio unit is smashed, the casing cracked open like a shell. Whatever climbed this tower didn't stop at the door. It finished the job. I step back from the window and feel the weight of the truth settle over me. The towers aren't a barrier. They're a delay. They slow things down just enough to keep them moving uphill, sector by sector, tower by tower. And when a tower fails, there's nothing to replace it fast enough. I climb back down, every movement heavy, and step out into the clearing. The lamp is still on. I turn it off. Then I stop. I turn it back on. Some habits are hard to break. I step away from the tower, heart pounding, and look uphill. The forest there is darker, denser. Whatever killed the lookout is gone, moved on, up. I check the time, late afternoon. Too late to go downhill safely. Too late to reach the town before night. I'm standing between a dead tower and a living forest, and the sun is already beginning its slow descent. I shoulder my bag and make my decision. If the system only works when someone is in the tower, then leaving it empty feels like an invitation. I turn back toward the stairs. I don't know if I'm stepping into a trap or buying myself time. All I know is that the night is coming, and I don't want to face it on the trail. Not unprotected. Not watched from every side. I start climbing, the metal ringing under my boots, and pray quietly, uselessly, that this tower can hold long enough for me to figure out what comes next. I don't sleep. I lie on the narrow bunk in the other lookout's tower, with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling while the structure creaks and settles around me. Every sound feels amplified, every tiny shift in wood or metal registering like a warning. My body refuses to relax, as if some instinct understands what my mind is still catching up to. This tower doesn't know me. That thought repeats itself over and over, sinking deeper each time. My tower, Tower 7, had learned my routines, my habits, the way I moved, the way I spoke into the radio, the timing of my steps on the stairs. This one hasn't had time to adjust. It's a borrowed space, and borrowed spaces are dangerous at night. I keep the lamp on. I don't even hesitate about that. The circle of light beneath the tower glows steadily through the floor panel. A pale artificial moon pressed against the darkness. Seeing it there is the only thing keeping my breathing even. I check the clock, 21:12. Night has settled fully now. The forest outside the windows is black and depthless, swallowing what little starlight filters down from the sky. The mountain line looms unseen, but I can feel an immense presence pressing downhill. I sit up slowly and pull the journal closer, resting it on my knees. Writing feels necessary, like anchoring myself to the moment. Like if I stop recording, I might start slipping. If you're reading this, I am no longer in Tower 7. That tower is damaged. The antenna is gone. Dispatch is silent. I reached the next tower before nightfall and found the lookout dead. The tower is compromised but standing. The lamp is operational. I am inside. My pen pauses. I don't know who I'm writing this for anymore. Not dispatch, not the system. Maybe just myself, proof that I existed here, that I didn't just dissolve into the forest like so many of the things I've watched move through it. A sound pulls my attention away. Footsteps, not beneath the tower, not climbing, circling, slow deliberate movement around the perimeter of the lamp's light. I don't look down immediately. I count the steps by sound alone, mapping the pattern. One full rotation, then another, closer this time. I swallow and reach for the handheld radio clipped to my belt. I turn it on. Static, nothing else. I don't know why I expected different. I stand and move to the observation window, careful to stay back from the glass. I let my eyes adjust, letting the darkness resolve into shapes. Something is there. Just at the edge of the light. Tall, upright. 'Tis still, it doesn't cross into the circle. It doesn't test the stairs. It simply stands, head angled slightly upward, as if listening to the tower breathe. I know this one, or rather, I recognize its type. It's not the climber, not the quadruped. This one waits. I hold my breath. Minutes pass. The thing doesn't move. I realize something then, cold and precise. It isn't checking if the tower is occupied. It already knows. I step back from the window, heart hammering, and move toward the door, checking the bolt again, even though I know it's secure. The metal is solid, the frame intact. For now, I return to the bunk and sit, forcing myself to stay still. Movement draws attention. That's something the rules never explicitly stated, but I've learned it anyway. The circling continues for nearly half an hour. Then it stops. Silence rushes in, heavier than before. I don't sleep. Morning comes reluctantly. Day 16. The light that filters into the tower is weak, filtered through cloud and canopy. I move stiffly, joints aching from tension rather than exertion. I check the base through the floor panel. The lamp is still on. The ground beneath the tower is undisturbed. No impressions, no signs of pressure. Whatever was there is gone. I eat sparingly, more out of obligation than hunger, and spend the morning inspecting the tower. The damage isn't as extensive as my old one-no-torn staircase. No warped door, but there are signs, scratches on the railing, stress marks on the doorframe. The antenna mount is damaged, twisted slightly, as if something tried and failed to tear it free. The system is fraying. By midday, the forest feels wrong again. The same compression in the air. The same subtle flattening of sound. I recognize the pattern now. I don't need to wait for it to escalate. I go to the observation cabin and begin scanning immediately. Movement appears uphill almost at once. Multiple shapes this time. Not clustered, not scattered. Staggered. They move in a loose formation, each keeping a specific distance from the others. They're not hunting prey. They're patrolling, guarding. I feel a slow, creeping dread settle in my chest. They're adapting faster than the system can respond. I report out of habit, even though I know there's no one listening. Tower. I stop myself. There is no Tower 7 anymore. I don't know what this one is called. I lower the radio. The shapes pause briefly, then continue their movement uphill, slipping out of my sector with practiced ease. I write everything down. The afternoon drags, heavy and tense. The forest doesn't settle. Sounds come and go without pattern. Once, I hear something like a voice too distant to understand, but structured enough to make my skin crawl. At 17 o'clock, the clouds thicken, dimming the light far earlier than it should. The sky takes on a bruised metallic hue that makes my stomach knot. I watch the sun's position anxiously. Night is coming faster than it should. I check the lamp again. Still operational. Good. I prepare as best I can. Door locked, bolt checked. Supplies set near the bunk. The journal within reach. The handheld radio clipped back onto my belt, useless but comforting. At 18:30, the forest goes quiet. Not gradually, instantly. The birds cut off mid-call. The wind dies. Even the distant creak of trees settling fades into nothing. The silence presses in so hard my ears ring. I stand in the center of the tower, heart pounding, and wait. The first sound comes from uphill, a call. Not the deep resonant one from before. This one is higher, sharper, layered with harmonics that vibrate unpleasantly in my chest. It rolls down the slope like a wave, passing through the trees without disturbing them. The lamp flickers. Once, twice, then steadies. I exhale shakily. Movement erupts at the edge of the light. Multiple shapes rush forward, stopping just short of the circle. They're faster than before, more confident. The tall ones take positions near the stairs. The lower ones spread out, forming a rough perimeter. They've done this before. They know the layout. I back away from the ladder hatch, heart racing. The staircase creaks as weight settles onto it. The metal protests immediately, but it holds. For now. I hear something else, then a sound above me. On the roof, metal scraping against metal. They're going for the antenna again. I look up instinctively, panic surging. No radio, no dispatch. No signal. I'm not part of the system anymore. The scraping intensifies, bolts screaming as something wrenches at the mount. The tower shudders. Below, the pressure on the stairs increases. The railing bows inward. The steps flex. They're coordinating. I press myself against the wall near the door, breath coming in ragged gasps. The door shudders once, as something leans into it, testing, then twice. Not slamming, measuring. I can hear breathing again, slow, deliberate, right at the seam. I clutch the journal to my chest like it's something solid. The lamp flickers harder this time. Bright, dim, bright. The circle of light shrinks for a terrifying second, darkness pushing inward like a tide. "No," I whisper, though I don't know who I'm speaking to. The lamp steadies again. The pressure at the door eases slightly. Then another call echoes from uphill, deeper than the first, commanding everything freezes. The scraping on the roof stops. The pressure on the door releases. The staircase groans as weight shifts downward. The shapes retreat with controlled speed, melting back into the darkness just beyond the lamp's reach. The silence that follows is absolute. I slump to the floor, shaking violently, lungs burning as I try to drag air back into my body. Whatever is uphill is closer now, and it isn't just directing movement. It's enforcing boundaries. Morning arrives thin and gray. Day 17. The tower is still standing. The antenna is bent but intact. The lamp works, though the bulb looks dimmer than yesterday, its light less confident. I inspect the damage carefully, documenting everything. Stress fractures, bent metal, scratches too deep to be accidental. This tower won't hold many more nights. I sit at the table and stare at the map again. Town is downhill. Civilization, people. But the downhill path runs directly through the lower sectors, the areas that everything avoids during the night. The towers exist to push things uphill for a reason. Leaving downhill after dark feels like suicide. But staying here isn't sustainable either. I write for a long time, trying to organize my thoughts. The entities aren't mindless. They follow patterns. They respond to signals. They respect certain boundaries. Light, daylight, the calls from uphill. The system was built around that. Towers, lamps, sectors, dispatch coordinating responses. But the system assumes constant oversight, assumes maintenance, assumes compliance. That's gone now. I look at the clock. Late afternoon again. Time feels unstable up here. Days bleed together. The forest doesn't respect calendars. I make my decision. I'm leaving before night. Not downhill. Along the ridge. There's a service path marked faintly on the map, running laterally across the slope, toward what looks like a maintenance station something between towers. I don't know if it still exists. I don't know what I'll find. But moving sideways feels safer than going down. It keeps me between the layers. I pack quickly, methodically. I turn the lamp on and leave it on, even in daylight. I hesitate at the door, looking back at the interior of the tower one last time. The bunk, the table, the journal I'll take with me. I wonder how many people have stood in towers like this, making the same calculations, convincing themselves they had time. I step outside into the gray afternoon, the forest watching from all sides. As I start along the ridge path, I glance back once. The tower stands against the trees, lamp glowing stubbornly beneath it, a small, fragile point of resistance. I don't know how long it will last without someone inside. I don't know how long I'll last outside it. But I know one thing with chilling certainty. The forest isn't trying to stop me from leaving. It's watching to see which direction I choose. And I have this sinking feeling that, whichever way I go, something is already moving to meet me. The ridge path is narrower than it looks on the map. That's the first thing I realize once I'm actually on it. How deceptive those thin lines are when they're printed flat and clean, divorced from terrain and consequence. In reality, the path is little more than a suggestion carved into the slope. A shallow depression where boots and tires once pressed earth into something passable. Once, now it feels abandoned. I keep my pace steady, resisting the urge to rush. The ground drops away sharply on my left, the forest plunging downhill in a tangle of trunks and shadow. On my right, the slope rises toward the mountain. Rock and scrub cutting through thinner trees that twist upward like they're straining toward something unseen. The air is colder here. Not the clean cold of altitude, but something stale, like it's been sitting too long without moving. Every breath feels heavy in my lungs, damp and metallic. I don't hear anything behind me. That worries me more than if I did. The forest has never been quiet when it's uninterested. Silence means attention. I check my watch. Still afternoon. But the light feels wrong, flat and diffuse, like the sun is being filtered through something thicker than clouds. Shadows don't fall where I expect them to. Depth perception feels unreliable. The world slightly skewed, like I'm looking at it through warped glass. I force myself to stop checking over my shoulder every few steps. If something is following me, I'll hear it when it wants me to. After about 40 minutes, I see the first sign that this path is still part of the system. A pole. It's short, half buried in the earth beside the trail, its paint faded to a dull yellow. Most of the markings have worn away, but I can just make out a symbol carved into the metal, near the top 3 vertical lines, intersected by a horizontal bar. I recognize it. It was printed faintly in the corner of my sector map, unlabeled. A boundary marker. I stop beside it and rest my hand on the cool metal, grounding myself. The pole feels solid, reassuringly mundane. A piece of infrastructure. Something made by people. The forest doesn't react. No sudden hush. No movement. No pressure shift. I take that as a good sign and keep going. The path curves gradually, following the contour of the mountain. The trees thin further here, opening long sightlines between trunks. I don't like it. I feel too visible. Too exposed. I start to understand why the towers were built, where they were, why they'd rise above the canopy instead of sitting at ground level. Up there, at least, you have distance. Perspective. Down here, the forest crowds close, even when it looks open. I walk for another half hour without incident. Then I hear it. Footsteps. Not close, not far, keeping pace. My muscles tense instantly, but I don't stop. I don't speed up. I pretend convincingly. I hope that I haven't noticed. The footsteps don't sound like boots. They're lighter, uneven. Sometimes there are 4 in quick succession, sometimes just 2. The rhythm shifts subtly, like whatever is behind me is adjusting its gait to match mine, mirroring. I keep my eyes forward, scanning the path ahead. The forest to my left slopes downward steeply enough that I can't see much beyond the first few rows of trees. To my right, the mountain rises, rock faces jutting out like broken teeth. No obvious place to run. The footsteps persist for several minutes, never gaining, never falling back. Testing. I reach another boundary marker, different one this time, taller, painted white. A small box is mounted to its side, rusted shut. I stop abruptly and turn around. The footsteps stop too. The forest behind me is empty. Trees, rocks, shadow, nothing else. My heart pounds in my ears. I stand there for a long moment, forcing my breathing too slow, scanning every angle, every depth of shadow. My eyes play tricks on me, shapes forming and dissolving as I try to focus. Then I hear it again. Closer now, off the path. Something moving parallel through the trees, snapping twigs and brushing against leaves without any attempt to hide its presence. It wants me to know it's there. I back away slowly until my shoulder brushes the boundary marker. I don't know why I do this. Maybe some instinct remembers the lamp, the circle. The idea that lines matter here. I stay within arm's reach of the marker and wait. The movement stops. The forest holds its breath. Then, from somewhere upslope, I hear a sound that makes my blood run cold. A call, not loud, not aggressive, structured. It isn't meant for me. It's meant for whatever is following me. The movement in the trees retreats immediately, fast and fluid, branches snapping as it pulls back uphill. I sag against the marker, legs shaking. Whatever is controlling this, whatever issues those calls, it still has authority, and it's still enforcing boundaries. I don't know if that makes me safer or just more predictable. I move on. The path begins to descend slightly after another hour, cutting across a shallow saddle in the ridge. The trees grow denser again, the air thickening as if I'm moving into a pocket where sound and light get trapped. That's when I see it. A structure, low and squat, partially concealed by trees and brush. My heart leaps painfully in my chest. The maintenance station. It looks nothing like the towers. There's no height to it, no vantage point. Just a reinforced concrete building set into the slope, its roof overgrown with moss and scrub. A heavy steel door faces the path, streaked with rust but intact. A small antenna protrudes from one corner of the roof, bent but still upright. Hope surges through me, sharp and dangerous. I approach cautiously, every sense screaming at me to be careful. The ground around the building is disturbed, but not violently. Footprints, boot prints cross the dirt near the door. Recent ones. People have been here. I grip the handle, and pull. The door opens with a reluctant groan. Inside, the air smells stale, but not rotten. Dust coats most surfaces, but there are signs of recent activity: empty coffee cups, a folded blanket, a clipboard resting on a metal desk. Lights flicker on automatically as I step inside, harsh fluorescent strips buzzing to life overhead. I flinch at the sound, heart racing, but nothing happens. The building holds. I close the door behind me and slide the heavy bolt into place. The silence inside is different from the forest's silence. It's contained, human. I sag against the wall, breathing hard. I'm inside. For the first time since leaving Tower 7, I feel like I'm not completely exposed. I explore the station carefully. There's a single main room with monitoring equipment screens, most of them dark. A radio console sits against one wall, its dials dusty but intact. A map covers the far wall, more detailed than the one I had at the tower. The towers form a line across the forest, just like I suspected. Each one labeled, each sector clearly defined. I find Tower 7, marked in red. A thick line has been drawn through it. My stomach drops. Another tower, this one, the one I just came from, is marked in orange, compromised. I trace the line uphill with my finger. The uppermost towers are marked green, operational, whatever is up there. It's still being managed, barely. I move to the radio console and flip the main switch. Static bursts from the speakers, loud enough to make me flinch. Then voices, multiple channels overlapping briefly before one cuts through clearly. Repeat, maintenance station check-in required. My heart slams into my ribs. I grab the microphone. This is a lookout, I say, voice hoarse. I'm at the maintenance station on the ridge. Tower 7 failed. Next tower is down. I found the lookout dead. There's a pause. Long. Then a voice replies, older, rougher than dispatches. Identify yourself. Relief floods me so hard, I have to grip the desk to stay upright. My name is, I stop. My name feels small here, insignificant. I was assigned to Tower 7, I finish. Another pause. Then, Tower 7 is listed as abandoned. My skin prickles. It wasn't, I say. Not when I left. The radio crackles softly. Stand by, the voice says. I hate that phrase now. I wait, staring at the map, watching the fluorescent lights hum overhead. The radio clicks again. Maintenance station, the voice says slowly. You were not scheduled to be in that location. I didn't have a choice, I reply. The tower was compromised, antenna destroyed. Dispatch went silent. Another pause. You should not have left your sector, the voice says. Anger flares, hot and sharp. Someone was killed, I snap. Your system failed. Silence. Then, quieter. We are aware. The words send a chill through me. You're aware, I repeat. Yes, the voice says. Response units were dispatched. They did not arrive in time. I grip the microphone harder. What are they? I ask. The things in the forest. What is this place actually doing? The radio crackles, a low hiss filling the space. Then the voice answers not directly. You were hired to observe, it says. Not to understand. I close my eyes, fighting the urge to laugh or scream. They're coordinating, I say. They respond to calls. They respect boundaries. They're learning. Another pause. Yes, the voice says. That is why the system exists. And when the system breaks, I press. The answer comes slower this time. Then we delay as long as possible. The words settle heavily in the room. Delay, not stop, not prevent. Delay. I think of the dead lookout, of the towers marked red and orange, of the ridge path and the thing that followed me until a call drove it back. How long do we have? I ask. The radio is silent for so long, I think the connection has dropped. Then, less time than we planned. The fluorescent lights flicker overhead. Outside, faintly, I hear something move in the trees. Closer than I like. The voice on the radio speaks again, urgent now. You need to stay inside the station tonight, it says. Do not leave. Do not turn off the lights. Do not attempt to return to a tower. Why? I ask. Another pause. Because the maintenance stations were never meant to be occupied by lookouts, the voice says. They are not part of the boundary. My stomach twists. What are they for? I whisper. There's a sound on the line breathing maybe, or something shifting just out of range. Then the voice replies, low and strained. Therefore when the line breaks, the lights flicker again, harder this time. Outside, something heavy scrapes against concrete. And for the first time since leaving the tower, I realize I may have traded one kind of protection for another kind of exposure. One the rules never prepared me for at all. I don't like the way the maintenance station sounds when something touches it. Concrete shouldn't groan. Steel shouldn't sigh. But when whatever is outside scrapes along the wall, the vibration travels through the structure in a way that feels intimate. Like it's testing not just the building, but the space inside it. Like it's feeling for me. I back away from the door slowly, keeping my movements controlled. Panic is loud. Panic draws attention. I learned that in the tower, even if no one ever wrote it down. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, flickering just enough to make my eyes ache. I don't turn them off. I don't even consider it. The voice on the radio was very clear about that. Do not turn off the lights. The radio crackles softly, alive now in a way it hasn't been for days. The presence of another human voice, however distant, however guarded, feels unreal, fragile. Like it could disappear if I move too quickly. Outside, the scraping stops. I wait. Seconds stretch into minutes. My breathing sounds too loud in my ears. I force it slower, quieter. I listen for the forest to resume its normal sounds, but it doesn't. The silence here isn't total, but it's focused, directed. Something is waiting. I move toward the map again, drawn to it despite myself. Seeing the towers laid out like that, clean lines, neat labels, makes the situation feel more controlled than it is. I trace the line with my finger, following it from the lowest sector up to the green-marked towers near the mountain's spine. Tower 7, red, abandoned. The next tower, orange, compromised. This station unmarked, a gap, a weakness. I hear the radio crackle again. Maintenance station, the voice says. Confirm door status. I grab the microphone immediately. Door is closed and bolted, I reply. Something was outside. Contact with the exterior wall. Copy, the voice says. Remain inside. Is it still there? I ask. A pause. We are monitoring activity in your vicinity, the voice says carefully. That's not an answer. You said the stations aren't part of the boundary, I say. So what's stopping them from coming in? Another pause. Longer this time. Nothing, the voice says. The honesty of it hits harder than any reassurance could have. I swallow. Then why tell me to stay? I ask. The radio hisses softly, like static breathing. Because movement increases risk, the voice replies. You are safer inside than exposed. Safer, not safe. I lean back against the desk and let my head drop for a moment, eyes closed. My thoughts feel jagged, scraping against each other. I try to organize them the way I did in the tower patterns. Rules, contingencies, but everything here feels different. The rules that applied to the towers don't fully translate. The maintenance station isn't meant to hold the line. It's meant to endure the breach. That's what they meant. When the line breaks, I open my eyes as another sound carries through the walls. Footsteps, slow, heavy, more deliberate than the ones on the ridge path earlier. These aren't exploratory, they're confident. I back away from the wall, positioning myself so I can see both the door and the room at once. There's nowhere to hide here, no elevation advantage, no lamp to draw a clean boundary between inside and out, just concrete and steel and lights. The footsteps stop directly outside the door. I hold my breath. Something presses against the metal, not slamming, not striking, leaning, testing weight. The door flexes slightly under the pressure, the bolt vibrating in its housing. My heart hammers. I grip the microphone again. There's pressure on the door, I whisper. Direct contact. Copy, the voice replies immediately. Remain still, I almost laugh. Remain still, as if my body isn't already locked in place by terror. The pressure increases a fraction, then eases. A long scraping sound follows, like something dragging its fingers or claws across the door's surface. I hear metal deform slightly, a faint squeal that sets my teeth on edge. Then the sound stops. Silence rushes back in, I don't move. I don't breathe. Minutes pass. Nothing happens. I wait for the forest to erupt, for the door to buckle, for the lights to fail. None of it comes. Eventually, my lungs burn enough that I have to inhale. The sound feels like a betrayal. The radio crackles softly. Contact has withdrawn, the voice says. For now, I sag against the desk, legs trembling. What was it? I ask quietly. Another pause. Then, an advance element. That phrase chills me more than any description could have. Advance element of what? I press. The radio hisses. Then the voice replies, lower now. Of pressure. I stare at the map again, at the green towers far uphill. Pressure, not invasion, not attack. Pressure applied to a system until it fails. Night settles fully while I'm inside the station. I don't see it happen directly, but I feel it the way the air shifts, the way sound carries differently. The fluorescent lights buzz louder, like they're compensating for something. I don't sleep. I sit at the desk and write by the harsh white light, my journal open in front of me. The maintenance station is occupied. The line has failed below this point. Whatever is uphill is testing downward movement now. The system delays, but does not prevent. If you are reading this from a tower, understand that your job is not to stop them. It never was. It is to slow them until something else decides what happens next. My hand cramps as I write, but I don't stop. At some point, after midnight, I hear movement again outside. Not just one thing this time, multiple. I don't go to the door. I don't look through any gaps. I stay where I am, back to the wall, eyes fixed on the room. The sounds move around the station in a loose orbit. Footsteps, scraping. Occasional dull impacts against the concrete that feel more like positioning than force. They're mapping it, learning. The radio crackles. Maintenance station, the voice says quietly. You need to be prepared for loss of lighting. My stomach drops. What happens if the lights go out? I ask. Another pause. Then the station becomes irrelevant. The voice replies, that's all. The lights flicker once, sharply enough to make me flinch. Then they stabilize. For now. I spend the rest of the night sitting on the floor with my back against the wall, journal clutched in my hands, listening to the forest breathe around the building. The sounds outside ebb and flow, sometimes fading entirely, sometimes returning with unsettling proximity. At dawn, the pressure lifts. The forest resumes its daytime noise cautiously, like it's testing whether the world is safe again. The sounds outside the station retreat uphill, fading into the distance. Morning light filters weakly through the narrow windows. I'm still alive. I don't feel relieved. I feel processed. The radio crackles again. Maintenance station, the voice says. Daylight window confirmed. You may move. Move where? I ask. Another pause. Downhill, the voice replies. Cold dread settles in my chest. You told me the downhill path was dangerous, I say. Yes, the voice agrees. At night, and now. Now, the voice says slowly. It is less dangerous than staying. I close my eyes. So that's it, I say. I just walk back to town. The radio hisses softly. You will proceed until you reach populated areas, the voice says. You will not return to the line. And the towers? I ask the forest. Another long pause. The line will be re-established higher, the voice replies. With different parameters. I open my eyes and stare at the map one last time. Re-established, as if this is just maintenance. What about me? I ask quietly. The radio crackles. You were never meant to stay, the voice says. You were meant to observe, report, and leave. I let out a hollow laugh. That wasn't in the job description, I say. No, the voice agrees. It never is. The connection cuts abruptly. The radio goes dead. I sit there for a long time, staring at the silent console. Then I pack. I leave the journal out on the desk, open to the last page. If someone else comes here, they'll need it. I shoulder my bag, take one last look around the station, and unlock the door. The forest outside looks ordinary. That's what scares me most. Sunlight filters through leaves. Birds call. The ridge path lies quiet and empty. No signs of whatever pressed against the door last night. No markers of danger. Just trees. I step outside and close the door behind me. the bolt sliding home with a final solid sound. I start downhill. The path feels different now, less watched, less constrained, as if the forest's attention has shifted elsewhere. I don't stop until my legs burn. By late afternoon, I see the first signs of civilizational utility pole, then a stretch of gravel road, then the distant outline of buildings nestled against the edge of the woods. Relief hits me so hard it makes my chest ache. I reach the outskirts of town just as the sun begins to dip toward the horizon. People are out. Cars pass. A dog barks somewhere. Life continues, oblivious. I stand there on the edge of it, dirt-streaked and exhausted, feeling like I've stepped out of a different world. I turn back once and look at the forest. From here, it looks harmless. Just trees climbing a mountain. I take out my notebook and write one last entry before I put it away. I'm leaving the line behind. If you find this journal, understand that the forest is not empty, and it is not wild in the way people think. It is organized. It responds to pressure, and it will always move toward whatever space is left unattended. I don't know how long the delay will hold this time. I only know that daylight is temporary, and the line always needs someone standing on it. I close the notebook and tuck it into my bag. Then I step fully into the town, blending into the noise and the light, and tell myself over and over that I'm safe now. Even as the sun sets behind the mountain. Even as the first streetlights flicker on. Even as I feel, deep in my bones, the unmistakable sense of something far uphill, adjusting its attention just slightly to account for my absence. I don't stop walking once I reach the town. I slow. Yes, my body won't let me keep the same pace after days of tension and bad sleep, but I don't stop. I move with purpose, with momentum. Like if I pause for too long, something will notice the gap I leave behind me. The town feels wrong. Not hostile, not altered, just thin. Like a stage set that's been left standing after the actors went home. People pass me on the pavement, close enough that I can hear their conversations, smell detergent on their clothes, feel the displaced air as they move by. None of them look at me twice. I'm just another tired person walking into town from somewhere they don't care about. That should be comforting. It isn't. The streetlights flicker on one by one as the sun dips lower behind the mountain. The timing makes my stomach knot. I keep glancing up at the slope rising beyond the rooftops, half expecting to see movement threading down through the trees. Nothing. The mountain sits there, dark and patient. I reach a small cafe near the edge of town, still open, lights warm and yellow behind the glass. For a moment, I consider going and ordering something hot. Sitting at a table, grounding myself in the normal rhythm of clinking cups and idle conversation. The thought of being stationary feels dangerous. I keep moving. My phone buzzes in my pocket. The sudden vibration makes me flinch hard enough that a woman passing nearby gives me a strange look. I pull the phone out with shaking fingers. No signal, of course. The town must sit in some kind of dead zone, tucked too close to the mountain for clean reception. I shove the phone back into my pocket, jaw tight. I reach a small park at the far end of town, the kind with a worn path looping around a patch of grass and a few benches no one uses anymore. Beyond it, the road curves downhill toward the main highway. That's my way out. Once I'm on the highway, there will be lights, cameras, traffic, distance. I stop at the edge of the park and turn around. I don't know why I do it. Some instinct tells me this might be the last clean look I get before everything changes. From here, the forest looks like it always has. A dark wall rising up behind the town, trees layered against each other until individual shapes disappear into mass. The mountain's outline is barely visible now, a darker shape against the fading sky. No movement, no sound. I take out my notebook and open it to a fresh page, resting it against my knee. I write because I need to fix the moment in place. I made it out of the line. I reach town before full dark. People are here, lights are on. Nothing followed me down that I can see. If you're reading this later, understand that the forest does not announce its intentions. It waits until it's certain you've stopped watching. The air feels heavier as the last light drains from the sky. Streetlights hum softly, their glow spreading across the pavement in uneven pools. Something about the light bothers me. It's too similar to the lamp beneath the towers. I shake the thought away and stand, slinging my bag higher on my shoulder. I'm almost to the highway when I hear it. A sound that doesn't belong, Not loud, not sudden. A low vibration that I feel more than hear, like pressure changing inside my ears. I stop walking. Cars pass on the road ahead, their headlights sweeping across the trees at the edge of town. For a split second, the light catches on something deeper in the forest, something tall enough that the beam breaks strangely around it. Then it's gone. I swallow. I tell myself it was a trick of light, a signpost, a trick of exhaustion. I start walking again. The vibration comes back, stronger this time. It isn't coming from behind me. It's coming from uphill. The same direction every call came from. The same direction every movement flowed toward. The mountain. I reach the edge of the highway and step onto the gravel shoulder, heart pounding. Traffic roars past, loud and close and aggressively normal. I pull my jacket tighter around myself and start walking along the road, away from the town, away from the forest. The vibration fades, relief hits me in a shaky wave. I laugh quietly to myself, breathless and almost giddy. I made it. I actually made it. I walk for another 10 minutes before the road curves enough that the town lights fall out of sight behind me. Ahead, the highway stretches on, illuminated by a long chain of streetlights disappearing into the distance. I stop beneath one of them and set my bag down, suddenly exhausted. This is it. This is where I call someone, where I check in, where I explain carefully, selectively, what happened up there. I don't know who I'll talk to yet. Police, a friend, some office number buried in the paperwork I signed months ago. I just know I need to mark the moment. I take out my notebook again, hand steadying as I write. I'm on the highway now, lights overhead, cars passing. The forest is out of sight. I should feel safe. I almost do. If I don't check back in after this, then something followed me farther than it ever has before. The vibration returns, stronger, closer. This time I hear something with it. A sound like wind moving through trees. But there are no trees near me now. Just road and scrub and open space. I look back toward the curve of the highway. The streetlight behind me flickers once, then steadies. My pulse spikes. I don't turn around immediately. I know better than that now. Turning quickly feels like permission. Instead, I listen. The sound isn't footsteps. It's movement without impact. A displacement of air. Something large passing through space without touching it the way a body should. Another streetlight flickers. Then the next one. A ripple of dimming light moves down the road. Toward me, one lamp at a time. Not going out, just weakening. I pick up my bag. My breathing turns shallow. I force myself to stay calm, to think. Daylight boundaries are gone now. Artificial light still matters, but only if it holds. I step forward, moving under the next streetlight before the one above me can falter. The light overhead brightens slightly, as if responding to my presence. That feels wrong. I walk faster. The vibration grows more pronounced, now accompanied by a faint, layered sound, almost like distant voices overlapping, too low to separate into words. I break into a jog. The streetlight ahead flickers as I approach it, dimming for a heartbeat before flaring back to life when I pass beneath it. Behind me, the light goes out completely. I don't look. I don't need to. The pattern is clear. The line is reforming, not with towers. With me. I reach into my bag and pull out the handheld radio without slowing, thumb flicking the switch out of pure reflex. Static floods the speaker. Then faintly something else. Not a voice. A tone. Flat, even familiar. My stomach drops. No, I whisper. No, no, no. The radio crackles louder. Transition window. A voice murmurs, distant and layered, like it's coming through several mouths at once. I stop running. The sound behind me stops too. The streetlight above me hums steadily, its glow harsh and white. I stand there on the side of the highway, cars rushing past only meters away, and feel the crushing realization settle into place. The forest didn't need me to stay. It needed me to move. I open my notebook one last time, hands shaking so badly the pen almost slips from my fingers. If you're reading this, I made it out of the forest. I reached the road. I thought that was enough. I was wrong. The line doesn't end where the trees do. It follows attention. It follows responsibility. And I think, somehow, I brought it with me. The radio emits a soft click, then silence. The streetlight ahead flickers. I close the notebook and shove it into my bag. I start running again, harder this time, lungs burning, legs screaming, chasing the promise of brighter lights farther down the road. I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if civilization can hold what the towers couldn't. All I know is that I'm not stopping, and if I manage to check back in once I reach the city, I'll tell you everything. Wish me luck.